Hello, everyone. Welcome to Superhero Rewatch. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me this evening is Austin the Day Goes. How great is this 8-bit rendition of this theme, Austin? It's fantastic.
In my head, all I'm imagining is what the loading screen for this game looks like.
What are you picturing?
I don't know. Oh, hold on. I'm getting you on 2 levels. Okay, there we go.
Are you good?
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, that's right.
I have like a few different ideas. The main one that came to me immediately was like the Batmobile driving down the road with like Batman's like head at the top of the screen, kind of over the city. That was like the first thing that came to mind.
I was having, just because of the melody in the middle, I was having a hard time not just imagining like 8-bit Batman and Catwoman on motorcycles diverging.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
It'd be weird to open your game with that, but yeah.
I can imagine like the Ninja Gaiden like cutscene like of that scene where it's like the two of them are there and then it's like.
Oh yeah, that'd be really good. Yeah, and like the sprites aren't moving; they're just kind of bouncing.
Well, and I was thinking like it's just like a still image of them just like sitting, and then like it cuts to them kind of farther apart. Like it's like there's no movement between them. Like it just cuts to like them farther.
That'd be fantastic. And believe it or not, I found tonight, and I didn't watch very much of it because I was looking to see if anybody had done that. I love doing video game music on the channel for lead-ins, and I was like, oh, I bet somebody's done this. And in fact, they had. It sounded really good. But somebody also had cut a 16 or rendered a 16-bit version of the trailer, and the few seconds of that I saw looked really good.
Oh yeah, well, people always have fun with that kind of stuff, so I'm sure that's great.
Anyway, welcome folks to the Batman commentary for Superhero Rewatch. We've been talking about doing this forever, and it is Bat March, so we thought we would start this party off with a bang. It felt earlier in the month when we decided to do this initially, because we were supposed to do it Friday, so I keep thinking like, yeah, we're starting off with the Batman. Yeah, we're already getting closer to the middle of the month now, but we haven't done a whole lot of Batman content yet for Bat March, so this will be one of our kind of big exciting streams, and I'm stoked. I hadn't seen this in a little while. We watched it with the Rewind Discord a while back, and that was a lot of fun, but that was the last time I had seen it, so just talking over it with folks. So last night into this morning, it's 3 hours long. I had to watch it in a couple of sittings, but it was the first time I'd watched it just with, no color commentary, nobody sitting in the room with me. And I gotta tell you, Austin, that was the best viewing I've had of this. This movie gets better and better every time I see it.
Yeah, it's so good. I probably had that too. I think like maybe not the best viewing experience I've had, but like I've never had a bad one with this movie. Like it's always great.
I loved this movie from the word go, but some of the issues thematically and stuff that I've had with it are starting to be kind of smoothed over the more I'm watching it and picking up on more stuff. It's a pretty dense movie. It's a pretty complex mystery. There's some real kind of subtle and nuanced character work and thematic stuff that you don't pick up on a first viewing necessarily. Maybe you did. There's some stuff that I didn't, and because it's like a movie. It's like a real movie, Austin.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was my biggest surprise, was that like this is like an actual detective movie, and yes, Batman's in it, so like it is a superhero movie. But I think, and not to throw shade at these, because I know there's a lot of kind of talk about the new one comes out, so you kind of crap on what came before.
Yeah.
Because I like kind of all the movies, but this was very much my Batman, so it's really cool to see that. But with like the Nolan movies, for example, there was so much talk when they came out about how they're not superhero movies, they're like actual crime movies. And I was always like, but they're not really though. Like they are, but they're not really. And this is, I think, much more of what people acted like the Nolan movies were in that way.
Well, we'll start the movie here in a minute. I don't want people to think we're going to do like a 20-minute preamble, but
yeah.
Real quick, I'll counter you a little bit and say I half agree with that. I think it was a big deal when Begins came out, and for a lot of people, especially Dark Knight, I think just because some folks didn't pay attention to Begins initially, and
well, it's more for
kind of
Dark Knight because Begins is more traditional superhero movie.
Right, but even then, but the point I'm trying to make is even then there were a lot of, especially critics, saying, "Oh, look, a real movie that's actually character driven and about Batman and not just about the villains and not like horribly formulaic, at least comparatively, compared to other superhero movies." I would argue that. At least, again, comparing, apples to apples, looking at a lot of superhero fare, the Nolan movies are, at least the first two, real movies in the same way this one is. They're just in a different genre. Like, those aren't really detective movies, and I would argue they're not trying that hard to be detective movies. Like,
No,
that
I don't
second
mean
movie...
detective movies. I mean, like, crime movies.
No, I know, and this is where I'm arguing with you, where I say, like, the distinction I'm trying to make with you is, yes, people said, like, that's a real crime movie and not just a superhero. I think The Dark Knight actually is a decent crime movie. This is I understand the argument that if you want to say it's a better crime movie, this is a straight up detective movie in a way that wasn't exactly. But what I'm saying is the Nolan movies were, like, still real movies in a way superhero movies very often aren't. They're just in a different genre.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Dark Knight more than Begins, but I don't know. Like, I don't think it gets out of that genre as much as people act like it does. But anyways, we're not here to discuss that.
Well, I mean, we can certainly.
Yeah.
So pull out your Blu-ray, your DVD.
I'm disappointed with the Blu-ray cover. I didn't realize that's what it was. You were picking it up.
What are you disappointed with it about?
I think the 4K, like the actual image of it, is a lot better. The poster, I think, for the Blu-ray one's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Well, I got the collector's edition from Walmart, and the giant cover is really cool, yeah. But it just comes with kind of the standard Blu-ray. So, can I set the video up now? Is that cool?
Sorry, I hadn't seen it. So when you pulled it out, I was like, "Oh, that's okay." Sorry.
So anyway, we're going to start watching the movie. Austin's very excited. I might just mute my mic for the next 3 hours. Pull out your Blu-ray, your DVD, however you want to watch it. Make sure to get past all the menus, get to timestamp 0, and it's also on HBO Max. I'll be watching it on Blu-ray. Austin, how are you watching it? Because you guys don't have Max where you're at.
I've got it on 4K. I'm watching it like that.
Okay. I remember the 4K cover being decent. I forget what it is.
It's just like the close-up of his face where it's like that, where it's the eye. So it's very underplayed.
I will say, since you mentioned it, I will say DC in general, I think has been a little bit better about covers and posters than MCU has. Because MCU is so generic and they're all samey, and even though like some of these are in the DCEU and some of them aren't, they haven't been as uniform, they haven't been as samey. But the Batman is weird because I wanted all of its advertising to be as minimalistic as the best of it, and like you said, some of it's this, which is kind of generic, and at least it's still using the color scheme of the movie. I mean, I appreciate
that's true.
that, but
well, I feel like that was one of the last posters they put out. Was the big head one.
The best stuff is just the really super super minimalistic stuff where you get like just kind of a silhouette of Batman's head, like with the thumbnail that I did for this, or you'll just get like him in the car, or you'll get just like Batman and Catwoman standing next to each other on a roof, and it's almost silhouette with big swaths of red. We use the color red to sell this movie real hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny
because he's vengeance. Give him a Red Lantern ring before the ending of this movie, and he would totally be a Red Lantern.
When they first released that the screen test thing, where it was like all red and it was the Batman suit, I was like, oh no, this is just gonna be Daredevil the movie. And when I watched it, it was like, oh okay, no, like it is doing its own thing. It's clearly like inspired by that with the red lighting, but that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a good point. Real quick, before we get started, Fidelio, do I get past the HBO Max intro? Yes. Make sure that the first thing you're seeing is the red Warner Brothers logo. That should be the beginning of this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this movie is like a very, it just kind of starts, it's like WB, the Batman.
That's great. Gets right in there. Well, and it should, because it's 3 hours long.
That is true.
So it's nice that it's not wasting your time at the beginning.
There's like 2 seconds of logos.
All right, everybody ready? Let's get right into it. Yeah, and it doesn't have that problem, Austin, where you can't tell when the movie starts versus the logos. It's not doing that.
No, none of that.
All right, guys, we're going to get right into it. Actually, let me read this super chat from Billy the Kid Lawrence so that I appreciate the super chat, but I was just going to say so we're not wasting time with it. $5 super chat, he says, is Bruce Wayne rich enough to have his own White Castle in Wayne Manor? Yes, I would 100%. Say he absolutely is. He just, wouldn't do that.
I think because Batman's in shape...
You draw too much attention to yourself if there was a White Castle inside the manor.
I think Batman's in shape enough that he probably lives on an only White Castle diet.
What's the point of all those push-ups if you're going to eat this much White Castle, Mr. Wayne?
It's okay, Alfred. The burgers are small.
I'll get drive-through. Okay, let's go ahead.
Have to.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Austin's stoked. He's soaked. I don't know. Get out of the pool.
It's raining. It's pretty bad.
See, now all I can do is go to Begins and Dark Knight references. I was gonna be like, he's gonna institute some new rules in the pool area. All right, folks, here we go. Timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now. We're just about to do it. We're going to watch all 3 hours of The Batman and chat over it. Here we go. Everybody, please press play. Oh, you know what? I forgot the timer on the screen. Let us know if you need a timestamp. And sorry that I forgot to do that. Okay, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
Warner Brothers.
And it's been a little while since I've seen it, but I think... Doesn't Joker also kind of do this, where it just does the really minimalistic still logos real quick at the beginning of the movie?
Yes, I haven't seen it since the theater, so... But I want to say they went with, old school logos for that, no?
Oh, yeah, to try to make it look more like a 70s movie?
Yeah,
which
that's
is
what I'm thinking.
Interesting because some of the same influences were involved with both of these movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm repping John Carpenter because there's quite a bit of John Carpenter in this movie, specifically with this Halloween opening.
And I wasn't even thinking of that. That's a really good point.
And the Batmobile is just Christine, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and I always forget that John Carpenter did that. Horror is such a blind spot for me. Mm-hmm. My mom let me borrow her copy of Christine years ago, and I've still never actually sat down and watched it. I need to.
You should, yeah.
We talked about doing it for Halloween last year. Maybe we'll do it this year.
Yeah. No, I think you'll look at the Batmobile a lot differently when you rewatch it after seeing Christine. 'Cause you'll be like, "Oh my God, it's just Christine. This is awesome."
A thought I had looking at it this time, speaking of Joker, is that would be an interesting double feature. I wonder how those watch together.
For this and Joker?
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
And I know you don't care for Joker as much as I do. And
I don't dislike Joker.
It's not like my favorite movie or nothing, but but I think considering that they're both recent movies that are more rough and tumble, and this is really pushing up against an R rating, I think. And Joker, of course, is an R-rated film, and they're both trying to be kind of 70s crime dramas. I think they'd watch okay together.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting experiment. Because I don't love Joker like I love this movie, but I like that movie well enough. I think it's pretty good.
Well, I guess it also feels kind of John Carpenter, just because not only do you have the opening shot through a mask with heavy breathing, but it also takes place on Halloween.
Exactly.
It's very appropriate that you're wearing that shirt. Batman movies in general make sense to watch on Halloween, but now we have one that just squarely takes place around that time. I'm hesitating because there are other Batman movies that do take place at Halloween, but the whole thing doesn't feel like Batman Forever does, but it doesn't feel like the whole movie is at Halloween.
I forgot that Batman Forever took place at Halloween. I was gonna say it's shocking that it took this long to get that.
It didn't. You had the trick or treat scene toward the end.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't really have like a real Halloween vibe like this does. Yeah. Like this arguably does.
It is really cool because now we have a Batman Christmas movie and we have a Batman Halloween movie. The Batman 2 should be an Easter movie, is what I'm getting at. So we can cover all of our bases.
A lot of wonderful visual storytelling with this movie. It's kind of directing and shot composition 101. You've got a newspaper clipping on the wall in the background that says Maroni drug bust. We're getting that up front right away. That's going to be a major plot point later. It's actually going to be a plot point and then turns out to be a much, much bigger plot point even later in the movie. One of those films that right away is putting things in front of you that you don't realize are going to matter and you're gonna need later.
Yeah, it's just really good world building. And of course, Maroni was just cast like 2 weeks ago with Clancy Brown.
Yeah,
the Penguin show. That's going to be great. That's a great choice.
It didn't even occur to me we would ever see him.
Neither.
I don't know why I didn't think of that, but like he was recently put in prison.
Yeah. Like I could see it going either way, but it wasn't necessarily like we're definitely going to get him. But it is cool, and because he is the person who creates Two-Face, I hope we keep that.
Yeah, me too. Well, and of course, a lot of folks are hoping that we see Harvey Dent in the next movie. And you made a good point off camera today where you said, well, we did get rid of the DA in this movie, so the spot's open.
We got rid of the DA and the commissioner, so we can start with Gordon as commissioner and have DA Harvey next time.
And we killed a mayor, but we elected a mayor, but I personally think she's going to die in the next movie. I think they'll probably have her work close with Batman. Maybe reluctantly at first, given her values versus his, of course. But you can't tell me they're not going to give Rial and Bruce or Bruce as Batman more screen time together. I think that's got to happen.
Absolutely.
Especially because the one time they shared the screen of this movie, she's complaining that he has all this money and doesn't seem to be doing anything with it, which is interesting because of what Thomas Wayne tries to do with his money and fails at, and all of that. There's a really interesting thematic parallel with him and Bruce Wayne with this, of course. But it's funny that he never has a chance to respond to her. That whole scene, like he never, or he never says anything.
They just kind of walk away, and
they're never on screen together again until the end, when as Batman, he's helping her out of the water.
Yeah. So this is just like this 10-minute sequence is the best Batman thing ever put on live action, right?
It's a really good short film all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody had shot this, obviously you couldn't, but if somebody shot something really close to this as a fan film and put it online, everybody would lose their minds.
Like, it's such just a good, like, Frank Miller-y thing where you have the narration too, and just I feel that moment when the drop head guy looks up into the sky and sees the bat symbol, and he looks so small in that scene. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's simultaneously really stylized, and in a way in the theater I found myself going, okay, I kind of feel like I'm seeing a Batman movie for the first time all of a sudden. And like, how am I having that experience with it? Because I love Nolan Batman. I love 89. Like I've been a Batman fan film first, like because of movies. And yet I'm going, what I love about Batman in comics has never been translated to screen the way it is here, and it's still in some ways not exactly my Batman, but I also think it might grow into it.
Well, I feel like it's possibly closer to my Batman than yours. Like, this is like everything I've ever wanted. It's great, and even just you get the shot of Times Square, and like that's not just an immediate like, oh, I know it's Chicago, it's New York, like it's reminiscent of other cities, but it's very much its own. So it kind of blends that Nolan and Burton city design, where it's not as far stylized as the Burton movies, but like it's a middle ground.
Yeah, and while feeling real, heightened comic book, it also has like plausible reasons for some of the stuff that's a little bit more heightened, and I don't necessarily need that, but it all works. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I should be questioning whether a bat signal in this particular universe even really makes sense to be used when like Gordon and Batman are talking to each other over comms and stuff, but I don't have that.
Well, what I like about it is the way in which it's a symbol and the way we're using it here, we're just as a criminal, you look up into the sky and every single shadow is Batman now.
But there's still, yeah, and that's, I mean, it's wonderful for atmosphere and stuff, but you also really buy it, and it feels like they're using the urban legend thing, but they're also intelligent enough to go, yeah, people know Batman's around, and like he's like, I was shocked that 5 minutes in, or like 10 minutes into the movie, we've got Batman just walking through a building with cops. There's no question as to whether or not he actually exists in this universe, but he's an urban legend in the sense that, like you said, everybody's jumping at shadows. They're afraid he's gonna be there at any point. So he's like Bigfoot if we knew Bigfoot was for sure a thing, but which makes it scarier for people because he might show up. He might come get you. You know, it's like a boogeyman personified. Like if you knew for sure he was out there.
That's one of the big things I really like about this Batman. That's very different from what we typically do with Batman, which is that, of course, we all think of like the stealth thing. He comes out of the shadows and he gets you. This Batman does not care about stealth. Like he's got loud cowboy boots that let you know that he's coming. Where he walks out of the shadows and you know that it's coming, that like,
well, that immediately
Boogeyman's coming to get you.
That immediately helps separate him from. Sorry, I've got 100 thoughts in my mind all at once when you said that.
That's just like such a good fear tactic.
I feel like we've got 3 hours and we're not even gonna be, like get everything out we want to say, right? Like I feel like this exercise is gonna be hard. I have too much to say.
Exactly.
He's able to sort of act like a slasher character when they need him to, from the perspective of the villains. So the Halloween motif, the kind of horror vibe of it, is very, very appropriate, in doing that.
Well, and then we gave him like the Dracula collar, like, and I think that works really well.
Which is right out of Earth 1, and I was surprised to see it. That was one of the things I kind of wanted.
Yeah, it's I feel like
here's the Arkham City shot. Here's the Arkham City shot. The camera starts to pan out, and now we're into the fight. Here we go. Do your combos. Don't forget the block.
He just did the cape stun beatdown move.
He does the cape stun, and then he's gonna pull out his electroshock gloves.
Yeah, which he never uses again. It's just in that one shot.
No, you'd think you'd pull that out more often. If that's not an intentional game nod, I'm sort of surprised, considering he never uses it again.
What I like about that, because it's a thing I mentioned to you off camera, which is that every time anybody pulls a gun on Batman in this, there's a really cool visual storytelling.
He just did a finisher. Did you see that? He pulls it down. He does the finisher. They he turns around. He blocks a guy, and then now he's got the electroshock. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like anytime somebody pulls a gun on Batman in this movie, he gets way more aggressive. Like that guy just pulled out a pistol on him and he whipped out that electric glove thing. And later on, you get the bit where the guy pulls a gun at Batman and he like domes him in the head with something he's holding. It's just like a really cool visual storytelling thing that he still has that kind of pain from when he was a kid that. You pull a gun on him, and he's right back in that moment.
Yeah, I had never thought of that before you said it. When we were talking about that earlier, that's such a good point.
It's really cool because they never say it.
Reviewed it when it first came out, and I don't remember.
But I don't think I was on the spoiler cast.
Oh, were you not?
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so other things we got to talk about before we get too far away from stuff. Another example of what are you drinking?
I got a Slurpee from 7-Eleven.
Oh, okay. It looked like 19 different beverages.
It is, and it's not very good.
Anyway, so another example of the movie doing like really comic booky stuff and then having good like story reasons for it, where it's still very narrative driven. And I don't mean stuff that just makes it more realistic. I mean just makes it more narrative driven. We've got the Purple Prose Miller-esque voiceover, but he's writing in a journal. There's a reason for it, and we see sort of like, I don't want to reference my own work too much, but sort of like Spawn Year, where we see him actually like writing it out in his journal, and we see like we'll cut to it, and if you're paying attention, you can see sentences in the journal he said already.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, and I like the way it's bookended, because very often we'll kind of spell out the themes of the movie too much with a bookend, but this. Even though it is giving you kind of a restatement of the thesis, it doesn't feel forced and hitting you over the head, and like it's not giving you any credit with it. It's sort of more, well, these are the things that Batman himself has learned and what his takeaways are from the experience, and he would be writing that in his journal. And so it's very intelligent narratively.
Yeah. No, I think it's very natural, and it's the first time I've ever felt like, oh, hey, there's Frank Miller Batman on screen in live action. And it's really cool, especially because with Miller Batman, when you get the narrations, I've always gotten the sense that it was from a journal, like the way it's drawn for the caption boxes. So it is really cool to see.
I also wanted to mention that I like the symbolism, and call me pretentious, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I like the potential symbolism in the kid in the gang who's got the face split down the middle, where his and of course you can immediately go, oh, they're kind of drawn like Joker gang guys, or because you split down the middle, it's a Two-Face reference. I don't want to go to any particular or any potential like other villain references. I think it's just it's almost symbolic of Gotham, where like it's half gone. Like there's still maybe hope for it. It still has a choice to do the right thing, but it has more than one toe dipped into the dark side. That's how I read that image.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Batman. He's leaning it too far towards the clown side, if you will, for whatever the white makeup is. And,
I almost wanted to see some sort of redemption for that kid later. It would have been kind of nice to pay that off somewhere, where like maybe you see him again without the makeup. He's like flipping burgers at McDonald's or something. I would have like, not that, but I would have liked to have seen maybe some kind of redemption,
or like
for him.
Maybe a shot where he's in the stadium at the end and he like lifts somebody out of something. I don't know. I don't need that, but maybe you could do it that way.
It would have been welcome to me. On the other hand, you might not have immediately recognized him, is I guess the problem without that, because he's just some 20-something kid. Like,
yeah, no, that is true. It is true.
We were talking about this today earlier too. I think, just for everybody else's benefit, catch everybody up. I think I'm in a place where Jeffrey Wright is my favorite Gordon now.
Yeah,
I think that's where I'm at.
When I think I'm at a place where this might be my favorite comic book movie. Like it was my favorite Batman kind of right out the gate, because as we keep saying, it was very much like, oh hey, it's the Batman I've always wanted.
When you say, let me interject for a minute and just interview you about this. When you say you're Batman, what are the
what do I want?
What are the like pinnacle comic book kind of references to you that this went to or reminded you of?
So my main thing is my Batman's like hardcore detective. Like I want detective stories with Batman. And the other big thing is that I want horror influence in Batman. Like that's so much of the Batman kind of identity to me, and I think that's why my two favorite Batman villains are Scarecrow and Killer Croc, because they really own that.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons the animated series is so popular, because even on a kids network that had standards and practices they had to get around, it had that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the two big things I would say. But, it's getting to see Batman just kind of solving crimes, like going to crime scenes. I love that he and Gordon are basically like buddy detectives in this.
Yeah.
I also really love the choice that Gordon just refers to him as man.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Come on, man." I don't know, just kind of like everything. It's like a perfect kind of combination of things that I like.
It's heavy enough and brooding enough because of the place that that Bruce is in his head, where he doesn't have a death wish, but he has that line early on where we haven't gotten to it quite yet, where he says, "If I'm not making a difference, I don't care what happens to me." Like, he only exists for this mission, and it is very much, I know this, I say this in every Batman video, but it's very much the Batman that wants to make sure this never happens to another kid, which is why that shot is so important with, you know, the mayor's kid. Like, it's not just a kid that's seen you know, his parents or a parent die in front of him, but it's like, it's such a similar situation where, like, maybe it was a mob hit, it might have been an assassination before it was just some random thug, it was a rich guy's kid. Like, it's a really similar situation, which isn't a thing I appreciated on first viewing. I was like, oh, it's not just that this happened to a kid, it's Bruce Wayne again. It's like a really super similar sort of situation. Yeah. And maybe even some of the same people could have been involved. They weren't ultimately, but...
No, one of the best things that I like with all of that is
we have to talk about this song, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's that they never talk about it, Bruce and Alfred, but Alfred gives a look that tells you, oh, it's Bruce Wayne again, when he sees the kid on the camera, and it's, hey, Marvel, you don't have to show Uncle Ben die. You can easily, in your movie, show your origin stuff and have it matter.
Make it clear that it happened. Yeah, just have something that really resonates.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess
this
the point
does a good job without having to show that scene, where it's still very important.
I couldn't remember how we got to this whole thing in the first place. But I was saying, like this is a Batman that is, of course, in a really dark place. He's at kind of his lowest point. He's real broody, and like, natural for Batman, but like even broodier than you might expect. And what was impressive to me is a lot of people were worried when Pattinson was cast, oh no, he's just going to be like an emo Batman. He is, and it works. Like, he's cast for all the reasons I was worried he was cast, and that's what this movie needed. That's amazing. But I guess the point I was trying to make is, but it's also not no fun at all. Like, there is, especially on multiple viewings, there's some surprising levity with this movie. It's real dry, and it's nuanced, and it doesn't get in your face with the quote-unquote comedy of it. And some people don't think there's enough. Some people didn't recognize what was there, I don't think. But, like, I think it's appropriate, and I think there's real humanity in this film. And fun to be had.
But there's a lot of moments that I laugh out loud at. Like, in that scene earlier when they were at the crime scene, I love that bit when Batman's standing over the corpse and the guy that's kind of analyzing the body has to ask him to move because he's like too afraid to like step around him. You know, like that's really funny. And it doesn't kill the mood. Like, it fits perfectly into what's happening.
No, natural humor, because
exactly
there are,
and there's a ton of that,
moments of natural comedy in real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. It's just like a humorous situation.
Well, and the bit toward the end where the cop tells Gordon, hey, Batman shouldn't be like handling evidence, and then Gordon says, he's wearing gloves!
He's wearing gloves. Yeah, no, it's great.
Oh, hey, I want to bring up my favorite nitpick about this movie before we even get to it, in case I forget, just because we're looking at the what do you call it? The eye things.
Yeah.
The contact lenses. How do the contact lenses have speakers? How can you hear through them?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't understand.
It's comic booky Batman technology. It doesn't bother me.
Well, that kind of thing wouldn't bother me in a comic as much, but here it's like it's real life and we're hearing it, and so I'm like, how are Selina and Bruce communicating over contact lenses?
Oh, well, with that, she has an earpiece, but I don't know if that's how Batman can hear her, or if he can hear through the.
Does she have it in that scene?
Yeah, there's a part where she's like very unsure about everything, and Batman kind of leans in, and it looks like he's going to reassure her, and then he just hands her not contact lenses, the earpiece.
No, I know, but later on, it's because she has the contact lens sitting out, and I know she's waiting for Bruce to see it because she puts a note in front of it. But is she just wearing the head thing.
She'd have to be. That's what I'd imagine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll look for it again.
Yeah.
Again,
you can't see it because of the angle.
It's a
It's
total
just her
nitpick,
face. But yeah, I imagine that because she still kept the earpiece.
Do you feel like Alfred gets enough screen time?
I was just gonna ask you that.
You go first.
I think yes. I don't know if I necessarily need more Alfred in this movie. I think what he gets is good enough, and I think it makes sense for where Bruce Wayne is. That we don't have more Alfred, because he's mostly just out doing things. He's not staying at home chatting with Alfred, and it plays more into Bruce's character.
Yeah, I found myself missing him, like wishing he was on screen more, because that was such an interesting actor pick, and he nails it.
No, and I have that. I like this Alfred.
And it really works. Like, I wish we had him on screen more. And let me just say, I'm glad that he's doing movies where we get to see him put in a performance, and he's not a CG ape or
I'm also glad we didn't.
Or a hobbit or something.
Because I'm also glad we didn't kill him off, because I was worried about it the first time, where I was like, oh.
I was worried about it as much as Gordon in Dark Knight, and they got me with this as much as or more as that.
Yeah. No,
but yeah,
absolutely. I think we will get a lot more of him in the sequel, though, because I think we'll get more Bruce Wayne stuff.
I think they should have waited and not made that stupid Pennyworth show and given him his own show. Like that. maybe that would have worked.
I mean, yeah, I love Andy Serkis. That'd be awesome.
Andy Serkis in Pennyworth.
Give me an entire show where he's just decrypting things for Bruce Wayne.
The spin-off of Batman's Butler. It's incredibly economical in
absolutely
its usage with Alfred. Like, every frame he's on screen matters for character work, for Bruce Wayne, for establishing their friendship and background, for furthering the story. He's never there without purpose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I certainly have to give it that. I do kind of wish he was there more somehow, but he's.
I get that.
He always matters.
Yeah. One of the things I have with this movie, and it goes back to Begins. So Begins has that line where Alfred goes, you're kind of sullying your family's name, and it always just kind of felt like lip service to me, where it's like it is there in that movie, but we needed to go farther, I think. And this movie takes it way farther, and I was really happy with that, because this Bruce Wayne isn't even active in public like that one is. Like, this one's basically what we all think of as the Michael Keaton one, where he's just kind of like a weird, creepy person.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is really character driven. We understand why he's acting like this.
Exactly, we're in his head. And
there are consequences for him doing that. The movie's not on his side entirely.
No, because that's the lesson he's got to learn, is he can't be that.
Yeah. Like, when you take your Bruce Wayne and you make him look like Nosferatu when he's not wearing his costume, where he's like so freakishly pale in public, you're not saying, look, our Batman is weird and isn't that so cool? Like Burton kind of did.
Yeah.
He's he has to pay for being such a recluse, and
yeah. And I mean, also,
and for kind of sullying his family's name like that.
Yeah.
And then it gets really interesting, because he doesn't care about his family's name in the same way that the Bruce from Batman Begins doesn't, but he like worships the ground that his parents walk on. He just thinks that what he's doing is more important than having a good reputation as a Wayne, and then that's called into question, and that's the part of it that's really interesting, versus Thomas Wayne being pretty salt of the earth and Begins, and both takes are good. I like
absolutely.
I like that they didn't go as far as Telltale with this, in having the parents be actually, corrupt and in with the mob and all of that. This is a nice
Well,
midpoint,
and I think this is a
and I
better
like it more than I did on my first couple of viewings, and we'll talk about it when we get to that, because I used to take more issue with the way that would, like, the way I felt like we were kind of teased with maybe Thomas Wayne was bad. It works way better than now, I feel like, on multiple viewings than I gave it credit for.
Well, and I think, because we said when we read The Imposter that The Imposter is Earth 1 done better, I think this is Telltale done better.
You think this is what done better?
Telltale.
Yeah. Especially thematically.
Yeah. I love that we get to see certain characters like these guys interact with both Bruce Wayne and Batman, and we get to see the kind of the flip.
This is, and again, not a thing I appreciated on the first couple of viewings. Batman coming into the club 3 different times is brilliant structurally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't like set up acts or anything, but it's nearly functional that way. Like, it's in every act. He comes here as Batman in the first act. He goes here as Bruce Wayne in the second act, and then he comes back as Batman, having kind of learned a stealth lesson the third time around. And it's also a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Yeah.
If you take just those scenes and put them all together, it's a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Okay, so this is the other part I was saying with the gun thing, where he's holding this baseball bat and somebody pulls a gun. Oh, it's the cop guy that comes up later, and Batman just like decks him in the head. And
that's great. What a good point.
He has this look of just like complete rage in his face when he does it.
You know what else I love about it? It's so subtle. This is another one of those really subtle, dry jokes. He's Batman.
Yeah.
He's
got an Arkham Knight move. You can pick up the baseball bats.
Yeah, but like somebody says, put the bat down. Like they're playing with the Batman pun.
Yeah,
animated series does it in Christmas with the Joker. Do you remember that? When Robin says Batman hits somebody with a bat, and Robin says, "Well, they don't call you Batman for nothing." Right.
Yeah, I remember that line. And everyone agrees. Just Colin Farrell as Penguin is so good,
and just completely disappears. And yet, and like some of that is makeup, but he is giving a very different performance from anything we've seen before. And yet, there are moments where he's just Bullseye again, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I forget what. There's one line that's almost identical to a Bullseye line that I noticed on this last viewing, and I was like, I didn't catch that before.
I feel like him as Penguin, and obviously it is a different performance, but it's kind of like him getting to do that Bullseye thing again, but in a better movie. And it just kind of all comes together a lot better.
Well, that's a good way to describe this movie, right? It's a hodgepodge that improves on a lot of things, and like not necessarily everything, because I think some things are because I said when this first came out and I reviewed it that it's a kind of melting pot of everything I've ever seen with Batman, with like only a couple of rare exceptions. There's even 66 in this movie. I still can't believe that we got all 4 of the villains from the 60s Batman movie in this movie. That's amazing that we did that.
I feel like this movie is what Aquaman thinks that it is, where Aquaman is very bloated and it's okay, get all of Johns' run into one movie, while this is like, okay, I know all of Batman, and I'm gonna kind of pick at things that I like, and I'm gonna kind of make it all cohesive and as a whole,
and then it becomes fresh again.
Then
it carves out its own tone.
Absolutely, which is something I had with the Gunn Suicide Squad movie as well, because that's very much like the Ostrander run movie, but where it like picks from everything from that run, but it doesn't feel like it's cramming an entire run of comics into a movie.
When you say this Penguin is maybe Bullseye done better a little bit, I hadn't really had that thought, but it is in that he is comic relief and menacing. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of fun in the Daredevil movie, but I'm never really scared of him.
Yeah.
just because it's played a little slapsticky even when he's killing people, and like it works in a movie where you've got a silly like playground music video fight where like Daredevil can throw his billy club in the air and like dance around for a second and then catch it when it comes back down. Like you can do the flicking peanuts into an old woman's mouth and killing her gag in that movie, but with this, you've got a Penguin that is at first, you can tell he's a kind of a bad dude. You're not necessarily really quite scared of him yet, and he is played as comic relief, but he's subservient to another villain. And then when you get to the end and that villain has been taken out, and you see just how like angry and ruthless he is, and how much he wants to take that whole corner of crime over, you're like, there's a whole dimension to this guy that we've not seen yet. He is capable of stuff.
Yeah. It's also cool because as of right now, we don't know that he works for anybody. Like, he's just the Penguin.
No, not yet. We will pretty quickly.
No, of course. But I'm just saying, like, on the first viewing, I think it's cool that you don't necessarily know that he's working for anyone yet. But because you mentioned structure with the club, this movie is one of the very few comic book movies where I can feel the issue structure if this was like a 6-issue mini.
Yes. And I had that on first viewing. I was really impressed with how much of a graphic novel or a miniseries this felt.
And one of the best things with that is there's just sections where like different villains will kind of take the place of the main villain, where like they're the villain of this section now. Like we'll get that with Penguin, we'll get that with Catwoman. We'll get that with Falcone. And obviously Riddler's kind of the villain throughout. That kind of ties everything together.
Sorry, while we're looking at the scene, I just want to say this real quick. Matt Reeves clearly likes, you said this to me today, and you're right, the Tim Burton movies, but not just 89. There's a weird amount of Returns in this.
He said that, I don't know if you remember, when this was coming out, he said Returns is his favorite Batman movie. And I think it really shows watching it, because it's like Returns, but written better.
Yeah, you've got Selena Kyle. I don't know what it is with like Selena Kyle like getting dressed seductively through a window, but like he's got to get that in there, like that's in Returns.
Yeah.
And the bits of the score that are most Elfman-y are in Catwoman's theme and sound like they come out of Returns. Like the most playful stuff in that score and in the most kind of mysterious but whimsical stuff, it's Batman Returns.
So we haven't mentioned this yet, but we've obviously seen this. I think it's a brilliant choice that Bruce Wayne just kind of walks around with a backpack and he changes into Batman when he gets to places. I think that's such a cool like a cool change for that character. It's so weird that we have that for Batman, but we haven't gotten that in live action for Spider-Man, right?
That's such a good point, yeah. Well, I think through this franchise we'll see an evolution of a lot of things with him.
Yeah,
a lot of people complained about the suit because people want their, definitive perfect Batman suit on screen. I love this suit as a prototype suit. I don't think that's what he'll be wearing next time, but I also could see an argument for continuing with it or something like it also. Like, I'm not necessarily gonna cry foul if the story warrants it, but it doesn't look like any of this is his be-all end-all. I mean, I think even the car, which I like, it's all prototype stuff.
I don't have that with the car. I have that with the suit, where I think we'll see that change. I'm also fine if it doesn't, because I do end up really liking this suit, but it does feel like a prototype.
Now, it's also possible, because there are some things I'm reading with this as a singular piece that could change depending on where Reeves wants to go with things. And it is possible that if he doesn't make as good of a movie for the second one, it could hurt things about this movie. Maybe. But with...
Maybe, yeah.
Well, I just mean in, like, where he decides to take Bruce Wayne's character is the big thing.
Well, I think... either way,
after his arc in this.
this should probably still hold up as its own thing for me because it's not like so sequel baity, but like there is a chance that if it's done really poorly into that, like maybe it'll ruin that.
That's fair, but I guess, and maybe we don't line up on some of these things. I've heard people complain that we've had this with our audience, that like this is a detective film, but Batman doesn't figure out enough of it on his own. He's just kind of following the Riddler and getting the Riddler's. Like he does solve all the riddles, but at the end of the day, he does kind of fail. Like he doesn't unravel the whole thing because the city still gets flooded, and I don't mind that on a first outing. But if we did that again, that might hurt this a little bit. That
I
kind of
don't want to see like him lose again in the next one. If he does, I don't think that takes away from this film.
That's fair.
I do agree that like. Yeah, you get to do that once.
I guess I'm conflicted because there's stuff like that I don't mind on a first outing, but if we continue it, then it's a little bit harder for me to appreciate even here, maybe. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'd have to have another movie before I was sure about that. You know what I mean? But
yeah. And I mean, it is that kind of comic booky Batman thing where, like, he's solving the mystery, but it's, like, at a pace. Like, it's not... there's maybe things where you can go, like, hey... like a real detective would probably do this and whatever. It's not. I don't think it's the biggest deal.
Let me read super chats real fast. Catch up on those in case folks want to throw more in. And thank you guys for the support. Appreciate you. Alfred put in a $10 super chat. Thanks, Alfred. He says, "I saw a White Castle the size of a tangerine." and then the chat says, "Celebrate the first super chat from Alfred."
Very good.
Because Alfred gave us, Batman's butler gave us a $10 super chat.
He's not in this one enough, but he's super chatting.
He had to make himself more known. It was also a very economical super chat.
Yeah. With the detective thing, though, I think it's important that Batman's still like ahead of the cops. Like, he's still a better detective than they are, and
that's true. That's a good point. But also, he's working with Gordon, so it doesn't make Gordon look incompetent.
No, it's just they make a point that, like, yeah, Batman is a smart guy. Like, he is, able to figure out things a little bit faster than they can.
But he also makes mistakes.
He's not God Batman.
He's
also one.
But also, he's green too, right? Like the El Rada thing is a huge misstep on both of their parts, and they play it that way. Like, if they knew Spanish better, they would have figured that out.
Well, what I like about that too is that that's not Batman making a mistake. That's Alfred making a mistake. Where Alfred's like, "Hey, this is what it is, but it's probably a mistake, so it's probably that instead. So it's that." And Batman
it is still a mistake from both of them though, because
of course,
because they weren't even thinking, "Oh, that's bad Spanish."
Well, I think part of that is because Alfred comes to him with, "Hey, he messed up his Spanish, but this is the answer," and it kind of sets them off in that way.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
That's always how I've seen that moment. But I don't know. I also like Batman's delivery of, "You got a lot of cats."
Yeah, no, it's great.
So that's another funny moment.
There's a lot of double and triple entendre in the riddles, some of which I didn't pick up the first time around. Like drive leading, and some of these are like super smart 60s Batman-esque riddles, right? Where I'm actually buying Batman breaking them down and coming up with the only possible answer, but like they're not super convoluted like in far-fetched like 60s Batman riddles, but they're still punny like that. And the comics will sometimes go to that stuff too, but I just appreciate it in a big movie where like, again, even that show is represented in the most sophisticated possible way. And so you've got and I just appreciate that we've got like good riddles for the Riddler. He's not just a like crazy mass serial killer
It's
guy.
not forever.
He is doing, but also, he's not Riddler in name only. He he actually gives like interesting, sophisticated riddles, and you've got like the drive thing where Batman goes to one of the mayor's cars because it's drive, but then it's also drive because of the thumb drive.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
all really well thought out.
Yeah, and so I went into this movie going, yeah, like Riddler's probably just gonna be a serial killer man. Like he's probably not gonna be um, very much like any other version of the Riddler. Like he's just gonna be like kind of scary, like serial killer. And then almost immediately into the movie, I was like, oh no, they remembered that he is the Riddler. Like he is this weird theatrical nerd that likes to tell puzzles and stuff. That scene where you have the neck bomb on the DA is so goofy. Like some of his lines in it are so funny. Where I love he answers I think the first riddle and he goes, "Oh, don't lose your head, Mr. Coulson."
No, it's great.
It's so great.
And I think the trappings of it made some people feel like, and like respect to everybody. I totally understand people not liking this version of the Riddler because it doesn't feel to them like definitive comic Riddler or like their favorite version, because he's not wearing the there's different Riddler costumes, but like he's not wearing the spandex, he's not it's not the bright green suit, he's not flamboyant in the same way.
Well, and I was surprised it was green. Like from the trailer I thought his suit was black.
Yeah.
So when I got into the movie I was like, oh no, it is fully green. Like, okay. Some of that kind of took me by surprise.
But what I was going to say is I think the trappings of it threw people off, where because what he's doing is so screwed up and quote unquote kind of real life serial killer, where some of it does feel inspired by real events at the same time, like characters in real life that have kidnapped and tortured people and done this kind of
well, because everyone goes
terrorism.
To the Zodiac, but there is a lot of Riddler in the Zodiac.
Sure, yeah, and that just ends up being like art imitating life and imitating art again.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the best thing about Riddler in this movie is that they never forget that they're adapting the Riddler.
Right, and I agree with you. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think the trappings of it masked that for people, where people are not picking up on that or not thinking that it's brought to the fore enough where it's like, yes, you can make the case that he's still the same awkward nerdy guy who is obsessed with puzzles and does crazy horrible things to people, but you have to live with it too long where he's like wearing that serial killer mask, so that when you finally get to that, I think people felt let down by it.
When I don't have any of that, like I'm like, oh, it's not what I expected in that first scene when he's sitting around going, and he like takes out the tape. Like I am kind of immediately like, oh, he's a lot sillier than I was expecting.
Yeah, and that didn't play silly to me first time around. I actually had to see the whole thing a second time before I picked up on all the tells where he is a like out of touch, more kind of socially awkward character.
Yeah, and I get that from like the second he starts talking. But like if people don't, like that's fine. But that is just like a criticism I don't really understand.
Well, but also antisocial can be creepy too. You know what I mean?
No, it can be, absolutely.
Like the idea that the heavy breathing and all of that is supposed to be funny. That didn't play for me the first time around.
No, what I mean by funny is I just mean like he's over the top is what I mean. Like it's he's theatrical. Like
Robert Wild put in a super chat earlier, and we haven't gotten to this yet, and I tried to put a pin in it, but we haven't gotten back to it. He says, I was so happy Nirvana's song was used in the movie. The thing I'm most impressed with Something's in the Way is that song bookends the film. It's very clear when you get to the end what it's thematically doing in the movie, and there's almost like a thematic mystery established with that song at the beginning in combination with Batman's journal. Batman's journal. Look up at the bat signal, and I say no. Where he's saying like I don't know if I'm doing any good. I don't know if I'm accomplishing anything here. There's more crime than there was. He calls himself Vengeance, and the song says something is in the way, and the thing that is in the way is vengeance. And then when you get to the end, it's bookended where that song comes back, but we layer. This is Giacchino's best score of all time, by the way.
It's really good.
We layer on orchestral music that's with the same melody but goes to an upswing at the end and takes the minor into a major and turns it into a into an optimistic thing, and that's into hope, and that's Batman's character arc. So that happens inside of the score. It's really sophisticated. But my favorite thing about the use of that song is that there's no other popular music in the movie whatsoever. It's just that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and it's, like you said, there's a thematic relevance. It's not the Thor Ragnarok thing where like we have a song, we'll play it twice and it doesn't really change in meaning either time. It's just there to be cool.
It feels like the whole movie was built around it. And
Yeah.
with a movie that it has a lot of music. I mean, it's a 3-hour film. You'd think that you'd bring in other popular songs so that Giacchino doesn't have to score the whole thing, and it's not that kind of movie. And what's weird is it doesn't date it. It doesn't make it feel more 90s somehow. Like, I'm not even thinking about the time period the song came out in. Like, it's really impressive, and maybe that's a testament to the writing of that song, that it's kind of a timeless song. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't like Nirvana at all, but it doesn't take me out or anything. Like it fits this movie so well.
yeah, and see, this got me on a Nirvana kick. Like, I've always liked that band. I've never done a deep dive with them. I listened to 2 or 3 full albums. That they only had the 4, I think, but I listened to at least a couple I'd never heard cover to cover before after that. And I gotta say, that is probably their best song, or at least.
Anytime anyone says something in the way is in the Batman, my mind immediately goes to the Beatles song Something. That's the chorus, is there's something in the way as she moves.
Well, and also it's kind of interesting in its melody, because I didn't have this thought before, but the bass line in that is also really simple, like the main theme with this movie, and it's not that far away from it. You could layer those on top of each other really easily.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, like I said, this is Giacchino's best work.
And I think Giacchino's hit and miss. Sometimes, and he's too prolific. He's doing too much stuff. So sometimes he's a little phoned in, and he might not be as engaged with a project, or maybe they gave him like 2 days to write a whole score. Sometimes it feels like that.
Well, I think he works really well with Reeve too, because he did the 8 movies.
And I remember those scores being good, but I couldn't tell you what they're like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, definitely. The big thing I remember is that he uses a lot of like war drum stuff.
Robert Wild put in another $2 super chat and said we should watch Andor because Andy Serkis is amazing in it. I didn't know he was in that show.
No, thank you.
but I have been planning on seeing that, and I just keep forgetting about it. I've got a couple shows like that where I'm like, oh, that's right.
It is really weird that he's in that.
That and Wednesday, I just keep forgetting to watch, and I need to.
It is really weird that Andy Serkis is in Andor. But ice can work.
Well, I mean, I was going to say he's getting a lot of stuff for Disney, but he's getting stuff for Warner's too, so.
Yeah. Well, and Disney keeps casting him and then immediately killing him. Like with the Star Wars sequels and Black Panther.
That's what killing you means.
So this Catwoman also, they're looking at year 1 like pretty hard. Not so
really
much
hard
in what she's doing, but visually.
Yep. And year 1 is one of my favorite Batman comics. So I was excited to see that influencing this as much as it does. It feels like she feels like 75-80% that character to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and they picked an actress that looks like that because that is the Black Catwoman in that book too, and especially when she has doesn't have like any of the wigs on. She's got that hairstyle.
Well, as soon as she was cast, I went because I think we already knew it was a younger Batman, and I think at the time we thought it was supposed to be like a period piece, and I was like, oh, they went with a Black Catwoman, and in looking at because I didn't know that actress from anything, but just looking at her, I was like, oh, it's like they're gonna just do straight up year one.
Yeah,
and it's not that far removed from that.
Yeah,
I think I've said this before, but oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this is the other big Halloween moment. This scene is straight up in Halloween. Where
That's true.
He's in the back seat and it's fogged up from his breathing.
Let's bring this guy back and cast him as Egghead.
No, Nick Cage is Egghead.
I know Nick Cage wants to be Egghead.
We gotta do it.
I wish it was the same interview because just like a couple months or a few months apart from each other, he says, I want to be Egghead. And then a few months later, he says, I don't need the MCU. I'm Nick Cage.
No, he doesn't need to be a Marvel. He needs to be in the Batman.
It's amazing.
No, it's perfect.
I've said this before, I think, but one of the reasons I was enamored with this movie right away is I always wanted to go to the other parallel universe, Austin, where Warner's let Schumacher make the year one movie he wanted to make. And because when he got Batman Forever, he wanted to make year one. And if you look at Schumacher's, especially like 80s work and his darker, kind of more horror-esque stuff, he would have made a great Batman movie if they had, and I like Batman Forever, but if they had just let him do his thing. And this feels very close to what I think he would have made in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't like Batman Forever. But I think Schumacher would have made a really good Batman movie if given the opportunity.
He was a really versatile director, and he was just doing what he was told with that.
It's kind of wrong place, wrong time, and it's unfortunate because that's his legacy at this point, and I don't really like that.
I just feel like
his legacy is he ruined Batman.
Yeah, no, it's not fair, but and I don't mean to take every opportunity and things that aren't about Schumacher to just take up for Schumacher again, but I'm bringing it up again with this because I feel like a lot of what this movie is probably what he pitched.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out.
It would have been a detective thing, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. It also would have come out. I mean, I guess it would have been before 7, right? But like that kind of thing was in the air. Because that movie's informing this quite a bit. I finally watched that, by the way, a few months ago. So I had seen the Batman already, and I'm watching 7, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot like the Batman. And then and then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, Matt Reeves has done multiple interviews where he's brought up 7.
Yeah, it was 7 and Zodiac were like the two big things cinematically that he talked about.
And then 70s stuff. He brings up The Conversation, which I've reviewed, and I like that movie a lot.
Mm-hmm. I've already brought up the Carpenter stuff. I don't think he's ever talked about that, but it's definitely in there.
I never noticed that. Well, and Taxi Driver comes up for this too, which is part of the reason I want to watch this and Joker back to back, because apparently they were both looking at Taxi Driver.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's the Batmobile hidden for now. That gets like probably the best Batmobile introduction out of any movie.
Well, and I mean, I want to say like more superficial people, that's not fair, but folks that are just, looking for all the big like Batman iconography, or if you saw it in the trailer and you're like, this Batmobile is really cool, it's fun how long they make you wait for it.
Yeah, I like that he doesn't really use it that much. Like he brings it out every now and then, but he mainly just goes around on a motorcycle.
Well, and some folks have complained. Well, and that makes more sense because you can weave in and out of traffic, and you're more you're a little more inconspicuous with that. Sorry, what?
When he's not dressed up, like he's just Bruce Wayne in disguise on a motorcycle. So yeah, like he's not drawing attention.
Yeah, I mean, he does have his bat suit on with his motorcycle at the end of the movie, so I mean, I guess he does it sometimes, or maybe it's just because
Well,
he's meeting Selina and she doesn't know he's Bruce Wayne. But
no, because he specifically has a bat motorcycle at the end. Before that, he just has a regular motorcycle.
oh, okay, I wasn't even thinking about that.
So
Well,
I
yeah,
think it gives the impression that he maybe won't do that dressing up thing in the second movie, and he'll just be like Batman driving around.
well, and that makes sense though. They've kind of set that up, right? Where like here he's trying to be really inconspicuous. He is, you said he doesn't care about stealth, and like you're right. When he's Batman, he doesn't. But when he's
I just mean, like,
interestingly,
that, like,
when he's
walks
Bruce
out.
Wayne, he does. Like he doesn't want to draw attention to himself.
Yeah.
So he goes in the unassuming guise.
No, he's got the stealth in that way. When I said he doesn't care about stealth, I meant like, with like he's got like the loud boots that like let you know that he's around, and he like, walks directly at you.
We got a $20 super chat from Burned In. Thanks
wow.
a ton to you, man. Appreciate you. He says, I was born in 93, and I do not like Batman 89. Oh, just cut me to the quick. My excitement seeing this Batman step out of the shadows is how I imagine people felt seeing Keaton Batman step out of the shadows in 89.
I
this
had
is
that in the theater.
100% my Batman tied with The Dark Knight.
I had that.
And of course, there's a ton
thought
of Miller in
theater.
this.
Oh,
he means the Dark Knight, the movie The Dark Knight.
Yeah, yeah. No, I had that thought in the theater where like this was the moment in '89 that people had when Batman flies down in the background. But I think it's done better. But it's also it has that to look at, so they're both done very well.
The tragic melody in the strings here that comes back at the end, it's kind of like the Bruce Selina like love melody, but like tragic. They can't be together. Is I think what the music is saying, and it is the most Giacchino of anything in the movie, from my mind. It's the only thing in the film that would make me maybe perk up if I didn't know it was Giacchino and go, okay, did Giacchino write this? Because that's the only thing in this movie that sounds like Lost, and he did all the score for Lost, and it's some of my favorite score in anything. I'm a big fan of the Lost score, and there's a melody he does in strings when we get super emotional in Lost that's similar to that. It's the only thing that's reminiscent of anything else from him that I recognized. Everything else feels real fresh and new. And some of that is because he's cribbing from so many different places. There's a lot of Nolan. There's a lot of Zimmer. All right, sorry, Nolan and Zimmer. There's a lot of Zimmer. There's a lot of Elfman. And you wouldn't think that you could marry those two things, but he does. And I don't usually talk this much about music.
Well, I
but
think there's a lot of Shirley Walker in
I
it
think
too.
I think 35% of my love for this movie is the score.
Yeah. No, his score is. I mean, it's what this movie is. Like, it kind of just picks from everything and feels wholly original at the same time. And his Batman theme, it's almost like a Carpenter theme where like it's very simple. It's like a repeating like 4 notes just over and over, like a lot of John Carpenter themes are. And just like that, like it's awesome. Like it works so well.
Connor says, Connor's in the comments. Hi, Connor. He says the 66
What's up?
Batmobile and this Batmobile are his favorites. Interesting that those would tie. That's cool. And that makes sense, too, because
this is the closest to getting back to the 66 Batmobile.
Well, the bodies are similar, yeah.
They're both just cars.
They're both muscle cars.
Yeah. I think it's
and
really
I don't know what this one's based on. Is it like a Firebird or a...
I don't know anything about cars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really either, but what I'm wondering is if they're looking at any particular model of a like make of a car, how early 70s is it? You know what I mean? Like how far away from the car from 66 is it even year-wise? It probably only post-dates it by 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's really hard for me to pick between this and 89's Batmobile because, and I know that's like kind of heresy, but
see, look, he's never gonna talk to her. He's not gonna say one word. That is unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah. Well, we got that Riddler guy that obviously comes back later. The way that's shot, like the first time you go, like there's something with this guy. Like he's gonna come back at some point, right? And I think that pays off really
Wait,
well.
what guy? What are we talking about?
The guy that was just talking to Bruce Wayne when Bruce Wayne kind of like leans over on the side, and there's the guy that's like, "Oh, these people deserve to die." I think.
Oh, is that supposed to be one of the 500?
That's the guy at the end that says, "I'm vengeance."
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never picked up on that. That's great because in the moment, even today, rewatching this, I found myself going, "Oh, it's kind of interesting that there's this guy here that feels like the Riddler does about all this," but I didn't realize that it was supposed to be one of his 500 followers. Okay.
Yeah, it's that guy specifically, and I think that's why they hold on him so long, where he kind of just like fades into the background.
It felt like
And
it
it's
was
very
doing
ominous.
something, but I never.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I'm still fitting all the pieces together with this. Speaking of music, I have another question for you, Austin.
Yeah.
I haven't done a rewind on this yet. I've not done a story analysis, a breakdown. So some of this I'm still trying to figure out. What thematically exactly is Ave Maria doing through this movie? It's there at the beginning. It keeps showing up. The Riddler is singing it. Like what is the purpose of it?
It's mixed into Riddler's theme. Like it took me a while listening to the score to realize like, oh, there's notes of it in his theme in the movie too.
Yeah, I did catch that.
That I'm not
It
sure
has something to do with the orphan of it all, right?
Yeah, and I don't know enough about that song to like have have a read on it. So it is what it is. But
I guess I gotta look into
I like it. Like I think it's cool. But yeah, I don't know enough about that as the piece.
Okay, I'm gonna do some research because I don't have an interpretation yet, and I don't like that. It bothers me. I feel like I should have a read on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
This guy is having a really bad couple of days here.
Yeah. He's like that 90s Spider-Man episode where Spider-Man and Jameson are strapped together with the bomb. He's got to put the liquid nitrogen on his neck.
And like, yeah, he shouldn't have taken those bribes, but I don't know that he deserves what happens to him.
I love that he's just sitting there and they send a little bomb robot in. Something about that is very amusing to me.
Suddenly Wall-E shows up.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another good part of what I was talking about with the boot thing, where you can hear Batman coming from like a mile away in this scene.
Yeah. Intentionally. Well,
Exactly.
and going back to the thing you said about stealth, I think some of it is sometimes he wants to be stealthy and sometimes he doesn't, and he picks and chooses. Like he is still a Batman that can disappear from a room and Gordon doesn't know where he went. Like we do still have that, and it's one of my favorite reactions, by the way, to that because we've done it 150,000 different ways and we've gotten really self-aware about it now. And I like that this movie goes back to brass tacks with it. So when he disappears and turns around, Gordon just goes, "Hey."
Yeah. No, it's great. No, it's like an intimidation factor that he walks as loudly as he does. It's awesome.
Well, and all of that plays into the fear theme, which is handled so differently than it is with Begins. And obviously, as you know, I love that movie as a treatise on the various ways that fear can be used. I like the idea here that the problem is fear, and the question is, like with the city, and the question is the answer also fear or not? And I think by the end it's saying no, basically. And so Batman will continue dressing up as a bat and intimidating criminals, but he's going to be a symbol of hope. Where this was my read after seeing it this time, Austin. It's almost like the Riddler perverts what Batman is about or what Batman thinks he's about, and then Batman takes that and kind of perverts it the other way, where hope is being perverted, is being turned on its head, and so he takes fear and perverts it in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I like that all of that's there with the fear stuff, and it's never talked about. Like, it's just there for you to read into it. There's no part where Bruce Wayne has to like have a speech about like how he uses fear. Like, it's inherent in the movie.
Okay, look, they're different styles.
I'm
They're
not
handling things in
critical, I'm just saying
different
I
ways.
like that in this. Like, it's more of my thing. Like,
I do
like
too.
Begins. I
But-
like it a lot. It's my
But it
second
works
favorite.
fine and Begins talking about fear, okay?
But I like that. I like this approach more. Is all I'm saying.
Hey, speaking of Begins, though, I had a thought today that I never had before. There's one, again, I don't want to wait till we get to the scene because I don't know where exactly it is. There is one shot in particular of Bruce out of costume. I think we might have actually been gotten past it already. It might have been...
Oh, is it when he's putting the shirt on?
I'm not sure. It might have been like when he's walking up to the steps right before this scene. I forget. But anyway, there's a shot of him that made me go, oh, I could kind of see why there was consideration for Cillian Murphy when he tried out for Bruce Wayne. There's a shot where Pattinson kind of looks like Cillian Murphy, and I never could imagine him as Batman and putting the suit on.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah,
I
I can't
can.
either.
Now I can totally see it.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he would do with it.
It would have been this. He would have
maybe
given
my
exactly this
favorite scene in
performance,
the
Austin.
movie.
Just like this.
Yeah. This is
Cillian
maybe
Murphy
my
watched this
favorite
movie and
scene
went,
in the
damn
movie.
it, that's what I was going to do.
What, sorry?
I said, Cillian Murphy watched this movie and said, damn it, that's what I was going to do. I'm just kidding.
One of my favorite bits in the scene is when he asks about the bribes, and he's like, it's 10,000, only just to look away from certain cases. And Batman goes, which cases? Like he's like in interrogation mode.
Somebody, I've missed the comment now, and we haven't responded enough to comments in the live chat. Sorry about that, guys. Somebody asked, Riddler's really enjoying this. Like, he's just waiting for this guy's head to explode.
No,
and,
this is one of my
it's so
favorite scenes.
disturbing.
It's so good.
There's two different ways to watch this once you know what's happening, and I think you're choosing the fun, amusing way more often than not, right?
But I've always had that. Like, he's so silly in this scene, and I think it's entirely on purpose that he's that theatrical. That he's joking around with them. Like, he's definitely intimidating in the way that I think they're trying to be, but I also think it's balancing that between him just being the Riddler. Like,
and it all comes from a character place.
Exactly.
It isn't just, well, we got to find some way to get the over the top theatricality in there because it's the Riddler. He's got like an infantile thing. He never quite grew up. He didn't have any guidance as a child. And I think the way the silly stuff that he does do, I think, is like a defense mechanism because of all the trauma that he endured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, in the Riddler in this is very much coded autistic, and that's not even just me reading into it. Like, they've talked about that, and I think it shows with some of that stuff.
No, you can see that. I think people read autism into things too often.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is not one of those. And even if they hadn't said it, I think it comes out well enough. Like,
I agree, but I think that's also the place to go with the Riddler. Like, like, I've known people that are autistic that are very focused on one thing, and they become like really smart about it, and they can like figure it out and like know it super well, and it's like very like focused on one thing in that kind of way that the Riddler is. Like, I think that makes sense as like a take.
Yeah, well, and the Riddler is really OCD in the first place, right? And
exactly,
so like there's it just makes sense that might be part of his psychological profile. Exactly. I don't want to be cliche about it. You don't have to play it that way, but I definitely buy it. And you could maybe make that argument for a lot of Batman's rogues gallery, where you go, well, if you're obsessed with this one thing, then maybe you're autistic. But if
you're just really obsessed with eggs.
Yeah, but I think with Riddler more so because of the anal retentive part of it, right? Like, I don't need...
Exactly.
I don't need like Zaz or Poison Ivy to be autistic. I really see it with the Riddler. There's another character I was gonna say I could really see doing it that way. Oh, you know who else I could really
Mad
see
Hatter?
playing as autistic? No, Clock King,
Oh, Clock King, certainly.
for the same reason, really.
You know what? The person that I was thinking of when I mentioned it was very Clock King, where it was like, at this time, this is what happens, and if it's not what happens, then like I get mad.
You can't handle it. Your whole world explodes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
And the
Yeah, I
Riddler's
can
like
absolutely
that,
see
where like he's compulsive. He has to leave clues. He can't help himself.
Yeah.
I mean, classic Riddler. This one's a little different.
Yeah, it's different where he's leaving clues because he and Batman are kind of in this together in his mind.
Yeah, it's that unrealistic lack of or like weird way of communicating thing that that I've also observed with some people that are autistic or like mildly autistic, people who like communicate differently, see the world differently, and so they expect you to be having the same conversation that they're having. And you don't necessarily know what they're talking about. And, like, that's very much what Riddler and Batman have here, where Riddler thinks Batman's with him the whole time. He's like, no, we did this together. And that kind of maybe helps, because I think the movie does tease us too much with the idea that Riddler might know Batman's identity. And there's too many clues that are right up in your face where it almost ends up being a little bit too contrived that's not really what's going on. Things, particularly like his wall of newspaper clippings and stuff where he's got Batman sitting right next to Bruce Wayne, but ultimately that's not actually what's going on. But
So I think because I have an answer for the wall thing. I think with that specifically, it's because all of it's kind of jumbled together, but Bruce Wayne's looking at it and going, "Oh my God!" Like Bruce Wayne and Batman happen to be next to each other, so it's more of a point in that way. Like I don't think it's really like a point of them actually being together. It's just that Bruce Wayne looks at it and it's like, "Oh man, you know." I can understand what you mean by you think that it plays with that too much, but it doesn't bother me. This, I think, is probably my biggest weakness of the movie.
that he looks like a flying squirrel?
Yeah, and have you seen any of the concept art?
No. Is it
Where
silly?
it's just like the Batman Returns, like the big wings, and I'm like, man,
Why couldn't it have just been that?
this is the most prototypey thing I think this movie has.
Well,
where...
and I think things like that are why a lot of people feel like this movie is. And I was about to bring this up. I can't remember who said it, but one or maybe a couple different people in the comments the live comments were talking about how they feel like this universe is like anti-fantasy, or has like thrown the possibility of fantasy elements out the window already. I don't have that with it, but
Yeah, I don't at all.
When you do things like making Batman look like a flying squirrel because you feel like it's more realistic than having the like actual bat wings and stuff, I can see how people are getting to that. I don't see how we've necessarily jettisoned giant plant monsters or the Lazarus Pit or Joker toxin, or like, I mean, maybe Joker toxin's not really supernatural, but you know what I mean, like the more heightened sci-fi elements or the somewhat fantasy stuff.
I mean, it's just like a real wingsuit.
But I also didn't think Begins had jettisoned that stuff either, and
I do with the Lazarus Pit specifically, but that's me personally. But
I think that movie, we're just going to argue about Begins this whole time.
no,
I think that movie is completely ambiguous as to whether or not Ra's al Ghul has one.
And I think Ra's al Ghul's way cooler than that in that movie. So that's actually a thing where I'm going, no, Cap, that movie is better than you think it is.
Okay, that's fair. But forgetting the Lazarus Pit, with both that movie and this one, I don't know that it would that you couldn't necessarily make a sequel where you bring in some of the crazier stuff
No, and I agree. I've always had
And
that
we go,
because
oh, we've jumped the shark too hard.
I
Like,
don't have the like super realistic thing that a lot of people do. Like I don't look at the wingsuit and say, "Oh, it's too realistic for anything else." It's,
yeah.
"Oh, that's a prototype suit." Like that's, like I think that will change moving forward.
Now, I do think in establishing tone, Reeves probably needs to put something more impossible in the sequel or in one of the TV shows pretty quickly. Because
Absolutely.
you don't want us to get settled into a more quote-unquote grounded universe and suddenly, oh, Clayface is possible? Okay.
Well, that's one of the
Because right now I think you could do Clayface, but I think the next movie needs to be Clayface or Mr. Freeze or something a little bit more out there. And
Clayface was one of the first things that they talked about for spin-off material. It was Scarecrow, Clayface, and Professor Pig was that article that came out.
well, and right now I think you've got a lot of people assuming that if they do Clayface,
It's Golden Age Clayface.
it won't be. He's not going to have like giant sledgehammers and stuff. And then there's the question of how CG do I want this material to get? Because you know what I mean. Like there are two sides to this visually.
Sorry, it is Matt Reeves though.
That's a good point.
That is the big
if
thing.
anybody can make it look real.
Because that's a big thing. People constantly go, "Oh, well, Matt Reeves isn't going to anything unrealistic," and I go, "Guys, he made he made 2 movies about talking apes. Like, I don't go to there with him. I'm like, yeah, he can easily go to more sci-fi things.
Another argument
He grounds them certainly.
Another argument you could make too, and we obviously don't know this for sure, but he immediately cast Andy Serkis. So, like, the man's there on set. How do you know his plan isn't in a sequel to have a crazy supervillain that has to be mostly done in CG? He's got Andy Serkis there.
Yeah. Well, and he's doing Christine and Halloween in this movie. He can do the Thing next movie with Clayface. That's absolutely a thing.
Okay, another thing.
Speaking of Christine,
yes, another thing people in the comments were bringing up is that the movie did get some criticism for quote-unquote degenerating into a typical giant movie car chase here. Less so than Begins.
Way less so, yeah.
Most assuredly. And
I saw they were complaining that Batman kind of lets Penguin get to a car, but it's all atmosphere. Like, this is doing that Christine bit where, like, the lights turn on and it's revving, and like it's showing how scary this is. That's what I like about this Batmobile stuff, is it's playing it that way.
Well, and the argument against this is too typical, now it's just an action movie that I would counter with is well, you're gonna have a Batmobile, what are you gonna do with it? Like,
it's what you do in film, yeah. Absolutely.
And B, it at least is born out of the story. Like, it's,
and I don't think it's shot super like action spectacle. Like, it's shot more like
pretty visceral.
Exactly. Like, I think this is looking more at horror movies than like Fast and the Furious or like whatever.
Well,
car action films.
And crime. Certainly.
Yeah,
like, if you could do some of this stuff in well, I say if you could do some of this, quite a bit of this you actually could still just do in a 70s movie. I feel like this is how a 70s crime movie would do a car chase.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fair.
But you're right, there is a lot of horror atmosphere here too. No, and those things have lots of overlap, right? Like, there's plenty of creepy, unnerving in crime drama.
The big thing is that in Christine, there's a chase scene where a guy's running, and Christine's set on fire, and it's like the car on fire driving down the road, and that's how this ends. That, and again, the introduction when you first see the Batmobile is straight out of that movie too.
I also appreciate that if your Penguin is going to be subservient to somebody else, is just working for somebody else through this movie, he still gets a big scene where he's the antagonist for a minute for Batman.
Yeah.
it juggles the comic book superhero stuff so well within the rest of the narrative. Like, you know, take notes, like Mark Webb, you know, in guys like that, where like you know, you have a lot of superhero movies where you get the action comic book stuff right, but the character stuff's not there, or you get the character stuff really right, like Amazing Spider-Man, but the you know, the superhero action doesn't work real well. And this is really well integrated.
Yeah.
And then you have Batman Begins, where it's married for the most part, and then you get the Batmobile chase where it's flying on rooftops. And I love that scene because it's a lot of fun, but it is a different movie all of a sudden. This is not. You're still in the same movie, I think.
Yeah. No, and that's some of the best action in Begins. So like it's really fun for that, but it does just kind of stop the movie to do that.
Oh, Robert, I didn't know that. Robert says there's a picture in Riddler's apartment where you see he was a choir kid.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
and so the Ave Maria thing is born out of a story poem.
That's true. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but yeah. One of the things I like with the Batmobile here too is, and it wasn't something I've ever thought about until I was listening to one of the Mark Millar interviews, and he was talking about Batmobiles in film, and he was talking about how one of the things that's really cool about '89 is that you get like a shot of the Batmobile, and then you know you have your chase scene. And with stuff like BVS, it kind of just shows up in the movie, and it is driving around, but there's never really a moment where you get to just look at it. And that's how we open the sequence, where it's just like a shot of the Batmobile, like here it is in all of its glory. Go. Yeah, and I never really thought about that, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the main place where you get to look at the Batmobile in '89 is when the shields go up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'd never really thought about that with BVS, where there's never, like, it just kind of shows up. Like, there's no real, like, hey.
Oh, you're saying BVS does that? I was going to say, because '89 has plenty of...
No, I'm saying, like...
big shots of...
'89 does that.
Yeah.
Like, you get lots of good shots of the car.
I'm sorry, I had to give somebody a timestamp.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know, I'm saying we kind of lost that. And here we're getting...
Oh, John Kelly says, not only was he in a choir, he says Riddler was part of the children's choir that sang during Thomas Wayne's rally for his mayoral campaign. I missed that.
Yep, no, that is the case.
Well, and that's the thing that's not brought out to the fore enough. The idea that a lot of the reason that Riddler is so traumatized and had this like massive shattering disillusionment is because he believed in Thomas Wayne specifically. Like he thought renewal was going to save everyone.
Yeah. So I think they talk about that.
Okay, sorry. I gotta say this real quick. Jason laughed out loud in the theater at this.
What the
just Batman's face coming in a frame like that? It's kind of unintentionally funny. And like I think it looks great. I think it works. It's also really funny.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, with that, you know, because they go more into it with that Riddler Year One book, but I do think there is enough of it in the movie. Like I don't feel like I had to read that book to understand what's happening with him.
Yeah.
In that. But they definitely, you know, that's a big part of that book.
AMC, so not that I even like this movie, but I think the BVS Batmobile chase is both cooler in a pure action movie sense and more intimidating and unrelenting, adorned with all manner of gadgets. Yeah, but it wouldn't be appropriate for this.
I also hate that Batmobile scene where he's like dragging the car behind, and it's so bad.
I do like that car okay for that material, but like these are just very, very different things.
I'm glad we got back to an actual car, though. That's my big thing. Is I don't really like the look of the Nolan or the Snyder Batmobiles. So that's my favorite Penguin line delivery, where they show him the picture and he goes, "What are you
showing me here?" That's great.
Yeah,
this is the funniest scene of the movie, easily.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is great because there's a
never-
lot of exposition here. Like, it knows how to blend all that stuff where it doesn't forget that it's an entertainment. It also doesn't get so comedic with Penguin that it gets weird tonally. And again, he remains intimidating enough, or he'll be able to be intimidating even while he's currently kind of the comedic, the comic relief.
Yeah. No, I never thought I would be excited to see a Penguin spin-off show, but he's so good in this.
Their take is just inspired.
Yeah.
The smartest thing to do with the Penguin, and this sounds weird, is just make him a mob boss.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he is.
You
yeah.
make him a Dick Tracy mob boss.
Yeah.
He's a disfigured-looking guy that cannot exist in real life.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
he is right in there with your Rupert Thornes and your Carmine Falcones, Ra's al Ghul, and your and your Maronis and all of those guys.
Yeah.
And usually I like him to be a much sophisticate. They won me over on him not being that here.
No, I like the hardcore Italian American
he's
kind
the
of voice he's got.
Crazy Italian mob boss. Yeah, he's never been played like this that I know of.
Why is he not Mario?
That's really funny. Like, the closest... Oddly, I think the closest to this take in extra media, but this version is like... I don't know. I don't want to say too rough and tumble for my take, but just not enough fun compared to this one. Is the Arkham one, with the Cockney accent. Yeah. That's probably the closest to this take. Mm-hmm. Don't you think? Because he's also not Monk sophisticated.
He's like a blend between that and Telltale, right? Because he also has the Oz thing from Telltale.
That's true, but there he's like a early 30s something kid.
No, I just mean like they kind of took some of that and like merged it into like a more Penguin.
That's true. Well, this guy probably was a street kid.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like that. Do you think they'll do the mayor thing with him in the second one? Penguin always has to run for mayor.
Yes, and he'll steal the Batmobile in his show.
They need to do that, yeah. Oh, yeah, he'll run for mayor in his show. Well, because, like, he even did it in Gotham. Like, Penguin runs for mayor. That's what he does.
Yeah, and he drives the Batmobile.
This all started in the 60s Batman.
If this Penguin shows up in, like, a little toy Batmobile, like in Batman Returns, that would be my new favorite Batman movie.
And he does it... And he steals the Batmobile in the 60s show not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Dagon Spear, him so one time he does it in the movie, but before that, he steals the Batmobile and he puts his own Penguin logos on the side of it. Dagon Spear says him being a mob boss works. To me, I feel the character has to have something more distinct, like in the Gotham series. Well, I like him on paper and the actor's choices certainly in the Arkham show. I had a hard time
in the Gotham show.
Or the Gotham show. I had a hard time not being reminded of that show a lot watching this, and we keep saying this, Austin, to your point earlier. This is also Gotham done a lot better.
Well, because
Gotham
places. Is like god awful, but it's got like some pretty good actors. Like I think that Penguin guy's pretty good. And
but it's also constantly
it up a little bit better.
Yeah, it's also constantly throwing back to and being clearly inspired by Batman Returns, like this is. And then the one of the things today that made me think of Gotham was just that a couple scenes ago, that bit where Penguin goes, "Riddler, how am I supposed to know?" And the first thing I thought was, you guys were like a homosexual couple in Gotham. Here they don't even know who the other one is. I was just immediately reminded of that.
That's funny. Well, hopefully Penguin's got Solomon Grundy as his henchman in the show. And then the villain can be Azrael.
No. You don't have to bring that up every time we talk about Gotham.
But it's the only part worth watching.
I'm going to make you and John watch that show.
I think John's seen all of that show.
I'm going to make him do it again. So, this is another one of those scenes that feels right out of an Arkham game.
Oh, with the projection? Well, especially with Riddler, because Riddler's got the, like, whenever you walk into his rooms or whatever in City, like, the projector starts and it starts playing him talking to you.
Yeah, and also just being in a condemned, abandoned building like this that's got
I didn't realize you were going so broad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not done. But you know, bits where you'll have really creepy messages on a door that you have to open. Where you're like, oh God, what's gonna be behind that? And
yeah, Riddler in City has a lot of that where like he writes messages and stuff all over things. Absolutely. They needed Warden Sharp to come over the intercom. So how do you feel about the way, like, that being Wayne Manor in this world?
What being Wayne Manor?
What's that?
What being Wayne Manor?
The building they were just in.
I always forget that's what it is.
So I think
I always forget they're in the tower.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if he's gonna like move back into it eventually, or like if they're gonna have like a proper Batcave, like.
Well, that feels like the one kind of leftover thing from the Affleck movie, right? Where it's got
you've talked about this before. I
the
forgot
rundown
about that.
Wayne Manor.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the Affleck of this. That this was originally like supposed to be his movie. It was called The Batman in the first place. I don't know if Affleck named it that, but that was always the attached title.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be a prequel for his Batman in BVS et al. And
I think that comes later. Initially, it is like it's not a prequel.
Oh, is that right?
I think that comes later because before it is just like an Affleck movie, and one of the big things.
Okay, but still that version of the character, like it was always supposed to be in the DCEU.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like originally, like it's just his movie. Like after Justice League, like here is the Affleck movie in the same way that we do with like the MCU. And then like later on they talked about it being a prequel, but originally it wasn't.
Okay, this is another thing. I got to get into criticism mode for a second with a couple things. That was maybe the main or one of the main things that made me go, okay, you're kind of teasing the audience a little too much and laying things on too thick about the Riddler maybe knowing Batman's identity. When you look at it all like retroactively, with the Riddler believing that Batman's with him the whole time, he picks the most ominous possible script with white on top of black that looks like blood and says, "See you in hell." And then when he goes to the asylum later,
he's like, "I told you I'd see you in hell."
And Riddler's there. He goes, "Oh, I told you I'd see you in hell." Like he was supposed to know what that meant. Nah, that's a little much. That's just for the audience.
That doesn't bother me, but I can see why you have that. People earlier were complaining.
The writer in me cringes at stuff like that. Like
that's fair. People earlier were complaining though that he sends a bomb to Bruce Wayne when he personally kills everybody.
Yeah. What's that about?
That's an easy solution. Like Bruce Wayne's locked up in a tower, like, and he wouldn't be able to get into it.
He's just doing what he can get away with doing.
I think that's a very easy explanation. Like he's not really a public figure. He's just locked at the top of this tower that probably has, like 1 billion security.
Yeah, the Riddler doesn't have a whole lot in the way of resources.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Like, with the other people that he's killed so far, it's not been this. Like, it's not like he'd have to break into a big public building.
Well, there's another potential explanation for it, too, which is, and I'm stretching a little bit when I say this, and this is not me taken up for that, except to say I don't have a problem with it either for the reason that Austin just said. I don't know that he could get in there, but it is possible, I guess, again stretching a little bit, that he uses a different method, a very different method for trying to kill Bruce Wayne than everybody else because the situation is different. So, sins of the father, you deserve to die because of what your dad did, but you didn't do it directly, so maybe a, like, quicker, painless death is more appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that could be it.
Is
too.
that possible? Like, he
That's an
doesn't need to see
interesting idea.
Bruce suffer. He doesn't need to screw with his head. He didn't actually do anything, but because Thomas Wayne isn't alive anymore.
Well, and also I could see, because he bombs Wayne Tower, like, and that's a symbol of the Waynes.
Yeah.
Like, that could also be a thing where it's just like, it's almost like that, blood in the water, the sharks will come thing. Like, you have just that image of the Wayne Tower with, like, the smoke coming off of it.
Yeah, and like he's trying to take down the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is vengeance, but he's also a little bit of a Bond villain, where it's like I've got to take everything down and replace it with something.
Dagon Spear, but Riddler saw Bruce at the funeral. He wouldn't be able to kill Bruce at that funeral and get away with it, though.
Not and finish the rest of his plan.
Yeah, like that.
Because he's still got.
There's too much that he still has to do.
Yeah, like he
and
can't get arrested.
No one expected him to show up.
He can't intentionally. Yeah, that's true too. But he wouldn't be ready for it. But he can't intentionally get arrested until he's got Falcone killed. Like, that's the reason that
big one.
That's the reason that he goes to the coffee shop and lets himself get arrested.
Yeah, because he's already done everything.
Okay, the other thing that I don't really care for is the weird choice of non-linear for 5 seconds with the way the scene is edited together, with Alfred getting hurt being done in slight flashback. To kind of screw with the audience and make us thinking that it's happening in real time. Where the maid answers the phone and is like, "Oh, that happened already." So what we're looking at with Alfred has already happened. It's just weirdly inconsistent. This movie never does that anywhere else. It doesn't do any flashbacks. It doesn't do any nonlinear. I feel like I'm being screwed with too much.
I think that's fine for suspense. Like, it is just there to make that scene suspenseful.
Yeah, I'm crying foul on it.
That's fair.
Because I don't know where I stand with you for a minute, and it takes me out of the movie. It wants me to go, oh, interesting. I thought this was happening now, but it's already happened, and instead of being like intrigued and surprised in a positive way, I'm going, okay, wait, what is happening right now? Like it took me out. It threw me.
Oh, okay.
In the theater.
I don't have that at all. It's like oh man, like, is Alfred gonna die? Like, Batman's got to be there to save him. Like, is he gonna make it in time? Oh, like, it's already happened. Like, I'm not confused by it. It exists for.
You can't do that one place in your 3-hour movie.
That's fair. I don't know.
You can't do that.
It doesn't bother me. I think it's fine. But that's fair if you have that. I mean,
there's no way I'm the only person that was confused by that.
Hey, maybe, I don't know. I did not have that. But I don't know. Like I said, if it's fair.
Okay, I have a question for you, Austin.
Yeah.
I still, and we've talked about this before, but now 4 or 5 viewings, I still can't tell. I don't know, and I'm not sure if you do either. But I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
I don't know if Falcone realizes that Selina is his daughter before she tells him, and if he does, why does she explain it to him?
I don't think he does. I think the implication is that he doesn't know that.
But she has a speech about weird eye contact they had together that implies that he has to know that she's his daughter. And then when you get to toward the end...
Oh, no, so the eye contact
I'm so confused.
The eye contact thing is when she was a kid, right?
Right, but I thought the point was he knows then that she's his daughter.
No, he knows that she's his daughter when she's a kid, but then she disappears and comes back fully grown. Like, he doesn't know that that's her.
Oh, okay, that's the part of it that I'm
you're just
missing.
Like that link.
Yeah. Okay, so he knows he has a daughter.
Yeah.
By the woman that worked at the club.
Yeah, he just doesn't know that that's her.
He doesn't know that as an adult he's looking at the same person because enough years have passed she wouldn't look necessarily close enough. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I also had a question for you, which is this like one of the only places where Batman during the day looks fine? Because that last scene was during the day, like the sun's behind them, and it looks really nice.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, because I don't like Batman coming out in the
bad.
day. Dude, I'm so irked by it. I mean, the movie's not out yet, but in the trailer for Flash, I can't deal with it. Like, 89 Batman in freaking broad daylight, I can't have that.
It's
like,
weird.
Stop it. If you want him to get really goofy with his performance and go try not to die,
You want
like
goofy? Come on.
I can handle that, I guess. But as soon as he's on a roof in broad daylight, I don't know, I'm out. Like,
yeah. And absolutely.
David Spear says, but Falcone would have to know or figure that Selena Kyle is Maria Kyle's daughter. Does he know her last name?
I don't know.
We don't know that for sure.
As far as we know, she's just like a girl that works at the club, and he's like, "Hey, here's a woman," and he kind of flirts with every woman.
Yeah.
That's there. So like,
he's a creeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodbye.
Bye. See, he's funny. So I have a big thing because a lot of people want both Hush and Court of the Owls to show up in this.
Yes, let's talk about this. I love that whole bit where Elliot comes up and then the word Hush is up on the screen.
Yeah. I think you can't do Hush because it's too much of a repeat of Riddler. Like, there's too much of Hush in Riddler's DNA. And then you can't do Court of the Owls because it's the Falcone stuff in this. Like, it would be too much repeating of that. Where it's like, oh, by the way, there's also this other secret society that was running everything.
Yeah.
Like, Reeves is taking certain things and kind of molding them into other characters. And I think you kind of can't do the things that he's taking from.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really impressed if he decides to do Hush and can make it different enough that I'm not crying foul on a double beat, because Riddler has a lot of Hush in him here. With like, he and Bruce weren't like close buddies at boarding school or anything, but like they're both orphans, and
even visually, I think he's looking at Hush with the Riddler's design.
Well, what I was gonna say is like Bruce's father, inspires him. So like he likes that family, and then he visually there's some Hush in him, and then Riddler has now been Hush.
Yeah, because we've now collectively decided that Riddler should have just always been Hush.
Yeah, so they just did that. Spoilers for that, but the animated movie version of Hush did that. So like, I think we've done him close enough at this point. And they have this whole conspiracy thing with. So am I remembering this right? That the journalist that Maroni. that Falcone has killed, this is all very involved, has killed for Thomas Wayne, but Thomas Wayne didn't want him to kill him, didn't realize that's what he was going to do. That is Elliot, right?
It's not Thomas Elliot, but it's something Elliot.
Well, presumably Thomas Elliot's father.
That's
if there is a Thomas Elliot in this universe.
Yeah.
But that is the Elliot whose name was on screen, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I got all my plot points right. This is the most emo he looks in the whole movie, and I still don't mind it.
No, because he's in a really low place, and I think it works very well. John Turturro is also really great as Falcone. He's like a lot smaller than the comic book version is, but I also think he looks like him in a weird way. Especially in like Long Halloween. But I think he does a really good job in this role.
So I feel like it worked better for me this last viewing than it ever has, but I still feel a little let down by the answer to what the mystery is. Like, I think it all comes together and it works fine. It's just you get to the answer of like who El Rada is, and it's just Falcone is behind everything, and he is and he was the rat himself. if I'd never seen a Batman thing, I don't think it would. I think I would have liked it better.
Yeah. Like as a Batman fan, like it's like obvious, but it doesn't bother me in that it's going like, hey, like this is a new Batman series, and we're gonna treat it like that. Like we're not holding your hand or we're not going like, hey, Batman things, and like a lot of the stuff hasn't been put on film yet. Like it doesn't bother me that some of that stuff is, while not new to us, it's new to people watching the movies. It's kind of what
it is weird to do it specifically with Falcone though, because in the grand history of movies and Batman stuff, it just wasn't that long ago that you had a Falcone that was running all of crime in Gotham.
Yeah, but they're also like very different. I don't know.
No, they are very different.
My big thing and why it doesn't bother me is it reminds me of like Punisher and Daredevil, where there's like whole episodes about Daredevil trying to figure out the mystery behind Punisher's backstory, and I walk in going, yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. I know what the mystery is. Like there's nothing to surprise me with, and it's kind of like that for me here, where it's like, it works for what it's doing. It can't surprise me because I know Batman things, but like it works on its own.
Well, I guess, and I don't want to rewrite the movie, but I guess a part of me wanted them to be two kind of different reveals, like who the Rat is versus Falcone is running all of Gotham, and is like, I think. Okay, here's the reason it worked better for me this time around, but not the first few times I saw it. It took me a long time, and maybe I'm just dense. I don't know. The movie's dense. I'm dense in a different way. It took me a long time to appreciate the thematic, like shock, revelation that of what renewal has been used for. Like, that's actually the big shock if you're paying close enough attention and you understand everything is Thomas Wayne, because on first viewing, I also thought that it was too teasy about, too maybe gimmicky, that's not the right word, but too teasy, I guess, about how Thomas Wayne is maybe, with this scene, is maybe working with the mob, was maybe not the great guy that Bruce thought he was, and then it turns out he just made this mistake where in a moment of weakness he went to the wrong person to protect his wife and son, and that person manipulated him like he does with everybody and used the whole thing as a blackmail chip in killing Elliot. Okay, but the reason all of that ultimately works so well is because Thomas Wayne really was a good person who was trying to fix Gotham with the renewal program, and that has been corrupted and co-opted and perverted by Falcone and all these other mobsters in Gotham, and Bruce is trying to fix the city, and the Riddler, in a weird way, is doing the same thing with his image, except what he's doing in the first place actually isn't the best way to go about it in the first place. So, like, it's a little different, and in a weird way, at the end of this, he has to live up to his father, who for a minute we thought was bad, which is pretty great, but sorry, I'm going on a long time. My point is, that's the big revelation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It took me too many viewings to get to that.
No, I like that you get that parallel, like you just said, where it's, Bruce Wayne, he's making this mistake in what he's doing to fix the city, and so did Thomas Wayne in that way. And I don't know, because there was a lot of people that complained about, like, oh, they should have just made them bad and gone all the way. And I don't think that works. I think I like this a lot better. And I like that Thomas Wayne's flawed. It's not, is he a good person? Is he a bad person? It's, no, he makes mistakes. Like, and that's what Batman's doing. Like, he's ultimately a good person, but he's not going about it.
It makes the story a lot richer. It's the thing that this movie that really sets it apart with Bruce's characterization is It's never been a father-son story in quite this way before, where we see that Bruce is making some of the same mistakes that his father did in an attempt to honor his father.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But it's also classic Batman in that it speaks to the question of what is the point of Batman? Is it to fix Gotham? Is it to make it a better city, solve all of its problems? Or is it to be a symbol, do the right thing, and hope other people follow you and do that?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I like about it is that so Telltale does the bad Thomas Wayne stuff, and I go, okay, you kind of did that for like shock value, and to be like, oh my God, can you believe it? Bruce Wayne's parents are bad. What a twist! And I think Matt Reeves kind of comes in and goes, okay, what if we kind of take an element of that and like make it really cool, like make it just better? I think. This also is just one of the best on-screen Bruce Wayne and Alfred scenes. I think like it's such just like a great moment, and I like Bruce Wayne opening up about his fears of losing people.
Well, and I think just in general, the movie does a really good job. Again, economical in giving us sometimes a very relatively small number of scenes with characters and like fleshing them out a surprising amount, like making me really buy that these are characters that know each other, have lived together, that have been around together for a long time. It works with the Alfred Batman relationship. It works with the Gordon Batman relationship to a point, although I do find myself wondering why Gordon trusts him as hard as he does, because we haven't gotten to see any of their adventures together before this. So like I buy it, something has happened, but I don't fully know what. And then it also works with the romance, where like
Yeah.
I actually buy them falling for each other, and that's impressive given how many characters this movie has and how much stuff it has to balance and how relatively few scenes they have together.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And with Batman and Catwoman, because like I've talked quite a bit about how I don't like them as a relationship in the comics, and I think Matt Reeves gets it, where it's like, they have that kind of flirtation thing, and like, will they do it or won't they? But Matt Reeves also understands that they can't, like, they just can't, and I think that's ultimately where the movie comes to by the end.
This is a Catwoman that is just never going to, and classic in this way,
Hmm.
but she's a little more tragic and I think more sympathetic than she sometimes is.
Yeah.
And she's got a tragic backstory closer to Batman's than she's had before, and I think it works.
Yeah.
Where they are never going to see eye to eye on their in attitude toward justice versus vengeance, and she is always going to think eye for an eye, tit for tat is correct. And I don't buy this is a Catwoman that never kills at some point. Maybe she hasn't yet. She's gonna.
Hmm.
Even if it happens off screen and we never see it. It's so interesting that Batman keeps trying to be her conscience, hold her back, like don't let yourself become Falcone, like you're no better than him if you kill him. She even tries to, she probably thinks he's going to be saved, but she even doesn't care if this guy dies and knocks him off the ledge, and then later Batman's holding her back from like shooting Falcone with a gun, and with Falcone with a gun and all of that. You get to the very end, and she says, hey, you should come with me, let's go knock off hedge fund CEOs. And I'm like, she hasn't learned anything.
Yeah.
And maybe she was just joking when she said that, but I don't know for sure that that's not what she's going to do.
Yeah.
When she says knock off, she means murder.
Well, the knockoff I think just means like steal from them.
Oh, are we sure? Because I thought knockoff meant kill.
No, I think like by knockoff she means like go steal from them. Like,
I thought like if you knock a person off, you murder them.
I mean, maybe, but that was always how I took it.
All right. Well, I don't mean to make my whole analysis based on a single line of dialogue, but you know what? Even without that, I still don't know for sure that she's not. She doesn't have the same worldview he has. Can we agree on that? Like
100%. Yeah. No, I think this movie
her ideology
gets
is
that
different.
Catwoman's a Batman villain and not a Batman sidekick.
I'll go as far as to say that the only reason that she doesn't kill anyone that's wronged her or wronged her Russian friend is for Batman's benefit. She's not worried about her own soul. She just likes him, and I think she's just respecting him in the moment. Maybe is all it is.
I also think this movie does a really good job of showcasing that Batman doesn't kill people without like having to talk about it. You know, where like it's just a thing.
Yeah,
and this is like one of 2 Batman movies where he doesn't kill anyone. It's just this and Batman and Robin. So that's cool.
There's that Batman Returns Catwoman sting.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention to you with Catwoman is I wanted to see if you also had this. So I feel like Catwoman she'll probably come back, but I also feel like this movie leaves it in a place where she could easily not, and I think it would be just as fulfilling for her as a character.
I think so too. I completely agree with that. And I want to see her again because I really like her, the performance and the characterization. But
yeah, exactly.
I'll go this far too, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I would be fine giving her a spin-off thing and her never meeting Batman again. I think there's plenty more to do with that character. Like,
no, I'd be down for a Catwoman spin-off here.
I think she is the best and maybe only version of this character so far that I want to see on screen, that I want to see a story about all by her lonesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and she's the most...
Didn't have it with Hathaway. Didn't have it with Pfeiffer. I like the animated series Catwoman more than a lot of people. I think she could have maybe had her own like animated movie or something. But
the thing with Catwoman in that show is that she's good, but she gets really bad episodes. So it's like her Catwoman's cool, but all of her episodes suck.
Yeah, but she could have had a show or a spin-off movie.
Yeah. No, and this is like the most off the page live action Catwoman. So like I'd be down for that.
It's interesting that we have this kind of running motif with her in a lot of out of continuity Batman stories or on screen Batman stories where she is some villain's daughter. I guess.
Well,
does the Falcone thing come out of Long Halloween?
It's not in Long Halloween.
I can't remember.
It's in that Catwoman book that he did. That's between Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Because then when she comes back in Dark Victory, she talks to Batman about that. I can't remember what that book's called, but...
and then she keeps having all of these very disparate relationships with Riddler. Like, we just reviewed a book where she, in the future, because we did, old woman Catwoman or like Catwoman Beyond with, what is that, Lonely City from Black Label a couple of years ago, and she falls in love with an older...
Thank you, that's what that book's called.
Okay. Sorry. I've never read that, but now that you say that, I remember that title. Because that's Sale also.
It's both Loeb and Sale.
It's Loeb and Sale. But anyway, so she falls in love with Riddler in that. She is an older Riddler's daughter in Telltale.
Oh yeah, that's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here, they have no interaction together whatsoever.
No. That is absolutely true.
There's another. Let me go back to something we were talking about earlier. There's another component to in earlier conversation we had that I think we should address, which is we talked about like various different choices you could make with this movie just in general, and I think one thing to keep in mind is like this versus Telltale, for example. That is a 89 Vicky Vale scream, by the way.
It was absolutely.
It really is. They could have just pulled that right from that movie. But anyway, for instance, you've got this movie versus Telltale, and I saw some people in the comments say, but it would have been more interesting and different if Bruce's parents had been had been bad, had been mobsters than what they did in the movie, and I don't agree with that. I like this better, but regardless of taste, there's also the question of what do you want for a quote-unquote definitive Batman franchise on screen versus a out-of-continuity alternative, right? Like, what works so well with Telltale is that it doesn't feel on any level like it wants to be the be-all, end-all, only Batman thing a person consumes. You're looking at that as almost an Elseworlds, right? Yeah. And this does not present it that way, in my opinion. I think this wants to be as definitive as it can be, especially because we've never gone this far with detective stuff on screen with Batman. And it's, like you say, the closest to off-the-page Catwoman we've ever had. Like, whether this is to your taste or not, some people feel like obligatory hallway fight. But whether you feel like this is your Batman or not, I think Reeves is trying to make a definitive Batman, as opposed to something like Telltale or Earth One or something.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that it's got that, while also, like I said earlier, like I can see this Catwoman never coming back, and I'm fine with that. But for movies, I think a lot of these characters kind of have to have that. You know, like I've always said, your definitive Mr. Freeze is a one movie thing, and he never comes back.
Sure.
You know, like I would think that you'd kill Mr. Freeze off by the end of a Mr. Freeze movie. But
well, I mean, we typically do that with villains in a lot of superhero movies anyway.
No,
this doesn't. The only one we kill is Falcone, and what else is there to say with that character by the end of this? Like,
yeah. He gets his cat scratch.
We have killed Falcone off twice now in Batman movies.
Does he die in Begins?
Or does he just go crazy? Maybe he just goes crazy.
I think he just goes crazy.
I feel like, in some ways with superhero stuff now, I feel like I've lived too long. Where I'm like, how have we had Falcone of all characters in so many different on-screen things that there's now discrepancy in how it's pronounced? When I was a kid, I didn't even know who that character was, and we can't get away from him now. It's crazy.
So when Gotham did it, I was like, oh, they pronounced it wrong. When this did it, I was like, wait a minute. Matt Reeves knows Jeff Loeb. Is that actually how it's supposed to be pronounced?
And I want to say Loeb has come out and said that it was always supposed to be Falcone, but I don't know if I'm right about that.
And I mean, you know, he doesn't create that character, but like obviously he does Long Halloween, which is a big thing with that character. But I don't know. Somebody ask Miller about it. I think that's where he first shows up, is year one.
This soundtrack is such a tearjerker, dude.
We talked over it earlier, but we hit my favorite sting where he's walking down the hallway and it's like bum, 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 bum. It's so good.
Dude, I'm gonna go this far. The Batman theme in this, just the simple 4-note melody, it's a Mario Overworld theme, is what it is.
See, I don't have that. To me, it's like a Carpenter theme where it's very simple and it's just like a few notes, but it's so good and it works so well.
But that's not what I mean. Like, I get that, and it is like that with the Halloween theme and stuff, but the difference is the Halloween theme always sounds the same and is at the same tempo. It's a Mario Overworld theme in that it's used in like 19 different contexts with different tempos. It's sped up, it's slowed down, it's at different it's in different octaves. It's played with different instruments. It's all over the place. You almost could have scored the entire movie with only that theme and never gone to anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like Kondo did with Mario World.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another thing that I said back when we first reviewed this movie, and I still stand by it, is weird that neither Batman or Gordon at any point went, I mean, are we sure he's not talking about a bat with a rat with wings? And it should have given Gordon pause, where for at least a split second somewhere he should have been, okay, is it possible that I've been working with the wrong guy this whole time? Like,
well, it's probably just like a matter of, I'm guessing that the Maroni thing happens before Batman exists. So they're probably like, well, there's no possible way the Batman could be the rat that brought them in. But yeah, maybe. I just realized I forgot to mention this earlier. In the first shot of the Iceberg Lounge, you can see the Riddler from his room, like it in like the big wide shot where it's like the building he lives in is on the left side. And you can see him looking through the telescope in that scene. I forgot to mention that. I just realized. But that's really cool. And she gets to have her Robin and Batman Forever revenge.
That's true. Where she just stands there and enjoys it, even though she had a big speech that was just given to her a couple scenes ago about how you don't want to become the person that you hate. But at least you're not the one that did it.
Well, I love Batman talking her down, where he's like, "No, you've suffered enough." Because it's not, "Hey, don't do this. It's bad for you." It's, "Hey, if you do this, you're going down too." So.
Oh, you know what else is great?
Mm-hmm.
This movie sort of has Riddler trophies.
It does?
Well, sort of, in that there's like there's question marks in his apartment here. Batman walks in, and I'm like, there are places where he could be maybe like hiding trinkets that you could tell. Like,
I still think this movie should have had like a little light gun thing in the theater. We have to shoot at hidden Riddler trophies, and if your audience doesn't collect all of them by like the 2.5 hour mark, the movie just ends and you don't get the full ending.
I thought you were gonna say like green poisonous gas is filtered into the theater.
Oh, I mean, that would be good.
Everybody dies.
That would be good too.
Except for Vicky Vale, because she got a mask that said "Put this on right now," and then...
Yeah.
Dagan Spear, when I heard that line, I thought it was obvious he was talking about a bat. Why is Penguin the first one to mention it? I had that in the theater the first time around. I was like, you guys, rat with wings. Like, in popular culture, the first thing you would think of is a bat.
Well, I think they just kind of go like, well, it's obviously not Batman. So, I mean, you could maybe have a line about that, but I don't even think they're ever thinking that.
There should be a line about it.
Mm.
Because there's different animals they're talking about that are like rats with wings.
No, that is true. I like that the reveal of Riddler is like a non-joke, or not joke, like a non-reveal. Like, it's like, yep, he's a guy. There he is.
Yep.
But it is cool we haven't seen him at all throughout the movie, like until now. Because they also hid him completely from marketing.
Well, and I wanted to talk about the marketing a little bit, but real quick, I was going to say it's also a little bit like the Watchmen Walter Kovacs reveal, where like you take the mask off and he's just this unassuming but kind of creepy looking guy.
Well, with that, it's Walter Kovacs is like hidden throughout the book.
Yeah, he's around.
Yeah, this doesn't even have that.
No, but it does remind me of that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that is true.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about the marketing a little bit because this is one of the best examples I've ever seen of showing you scenes from all over the movie and in some major, like, revealing sequences and all the way to the third act that still doesn't tell you too much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, in the first trailer they'd only been filming for a little bit. Like, I don't even think they had that much material to work with, and it's the best trailer.
Yeah, well, and a lot of us cried foul when it looked like from the trailer they were coming right out and saying Riddler figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and then that was this red herring. And I think a lot of us were thrown off by that. Like I bought into that hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the Edward Nashton thing?
That's another one of those things where I don't know that I'm going to really have much of an opinion about it until I see how we handle other villain names. Like, I wonder if that choice was made. Like, I don't know what the motivation is exactly for it, because
So
a lot of people. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Edward Nashton's the Riddler's original name.
I'm aware of that.
I know. I'm just saying, like, do you think it's cool that like we did that?
No, because I don't know. 'Cause what I'm trying to say is I don't know what the motivation is. I don't know if they were looking for another comic book thing so that fans wouldn't cry foul that you didn't use Nigma, but like they were lucky that that existed so that they didn't have to do a thing that was on the nose, and they were trying to be more realistic with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's what it is, then I'm curious to see what they do with other villain names moving forward. Like, what can you do Victor Freeze now? Or is that going to be too on the nose for them, so they'll try to come up with some other name? Or did they do Nashton because it was just a cool, like comic pool? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure what the motivation is for it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Absolutely. In that Riddler Year One book, they say that Nigma's the name of the like chat group that he has, and I want to look to see when we get to that part in the movie if that's written anywhere on the screen, because I think that's really interesting.
I like that a lot. I wish if it is in the movie, I wish it was brought to the fore.
Yeah, no, because I think that's a really cool reinvention that
we should see it somewhere.
Edward Nashton, and then Nigma's what unites all of the Riddlers.
Plushie DX Victor French Fry.
Oh no. But yeah, hey, we did the Falcone thing. Maybe it'll be Victor Fries. We don't know.
Victor Fries.
That is how it's spelled.
That's great.
I hope we go to Joe Kerr too.
Yes, I want Joe Kerr. This is my confession.
Where's part 3?
This is Riddler's Confession Part 3.
Part 4 is what's under the rug.
I also love the angle that, and we don't even know it yet, because the bat in the cage is just creepy and weird and seems to be symbolic of something, but you don't know exactly what they're doing right away with it, where it's like you've got rats, this is the rat with wings. Again, weird that nobody said a bat before. It's right there physically in a cage. And then later on you find out that the Riddler is a creepy, screwed up Batman fan.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's cool because it's part of the riddle where it's like, hey, Batman, this is the last clue you have to look for, and it's hidden with a bat.
Yeah, it's great.
I didn't get a good look at the screen there to see if Nigma was written anywhere.
I wasn't looking for it either. I should have been.
Because that might just be like a thing that was like maybe in the script or something that Paul Dano knows, and he pulled that, or maybe he came up with it on his own. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Like, I also wonder if they'll decide certain names just sound too outdated and weird now. Like, are we calling Penguin Oz because we're never going to say Cobblepot? Like, we're never going to say Oswald?
Well, I don't think Oswald's like a silly name. I think they just go to Oz because it's like a easy shorthand, and the Telltale game did that, so they went like, oh,
sure,
we'll
but
take that. But
it's hard to say. You don't know for sure
know.
If we never hear it. Mm-hmm. They might not want to use it.
No, and I've never had that thought with the Oswald Cobblepot thing.
That's what I'm saying is I don't know what the motivation is, and I'm not super opinionated about it regardless. But I'm curious. I just wonder how far they're willing to go and not, because if they'll introduce any of those more comic-y, silly elements, people won't be as quick to judge and say, well, there's no way you guys will never do Clayface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard to say. Like,
I think those are the kinds of things people need from them.
With the Penguin thing specifically, like that could be like a homecoming thing where like none of the kids at the school have last names, but it's like, you know what I mean? But and then like eventually they called him Ned Leeds in like the third movie.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, it's like it could be just like a thing like that where it just doesn't come up.
It seems that I've missed a super chat. Let me go back up and try to find it.
I will say though, speaking of Homecoming, I think
Oh,
this
it's
is.
not on screen anymore.
Oh.
Hopefully I can find it. My apologies. I didn't realize I missed one. Sorry, go ahead.
I do think that this movie does an even better job than that does at like starting with like an established world where you can have all these characters and we build a plot that kind of fits them all in. That's the big thing that I think Reeves learned from Loeb is to naturally build stories like that include a ton of characters.
John Kelling wrote, "I'm Ray Star Wars." Hey, Robert, would you just put it in the regular chat for me? Because it's not letting me look at it. It's here, but I cannot scroll down that far for some reason. Now, I will say I don't mind Riddler because the suspense is so good. I don't mind Riddler saying Bruce Wayne over and over again and Batman thinking that he knows who he is. That's not the part of it that's too teasy for me. It's some of the lead up. That part of it I think is wonderfully tense, and I love all the moments that it looks like Batman might respond. You know, like he might say something that would incriminate him, and he never does. Yeah, it's good. It's good writing. They play it wonderfully well in the scene.
And I love just the choice of having Batman look up and then you cut to the camera in the room that's filming them. Where it's like he kind of knows that there's no getting out of this if Riddler drops anything.
Robert was just asking if either of us have seen Fritz Lang's M. I still have never done that, and I need to. I love Metropolis. I've never seen M. He made M, I want to say just before or just after Metropolis. I think because Metropolis is, I'm going back through my mental Rolodex. Metropolis is 27. I want to say M is like 30 or 31 maybe, but that's his other big German expressionism epic in the silent film era. I've never seen it.
That's awesome.
I've seen clips of it.
Mm-hmm. I've not seen that.
Because I took a silent film class back in college. And we talked about it, but I've never sat through the whole movie.
Yeah, and this is like Paul Dano's like only scene without a mask to really shine.
Yeah, no, that's right. And he has a whole take where it looks like he's worked really hard on how exactly to play this character, and we only see his face in the one scene.
Yeah. Like obviously you see him, later on, but this is like the scene. Like this is where he really gets to.
Well, no, that's fair. Yeah, he's unmasked in a few scenes, but he doesn't get all of this to do.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like
this is a whole soliloquy.
Yeah, no, and this monologue's great, and I like when he starts to freak out because Batman's not with him, like he thought.
It's also wonderfully screwed up how. Like, the most unnerving thing about this as a Batman fan is all the ways in which the Riddler is right about Batman, at least who he is right now. Like, he sort of fully understands him, at least as much as Batman has revealed himself so far, where it's like, Batman's going, oh, I'm sort of misunderstood. I have put myself out there and people are getting the wrong idea about me, but then, are they really? Because there's too many points in the movie where you seem to almost agree with the people that Riddler has taken out because maybe they deserved it, right? And so the part where he goes, in this scene, you are your mask. It's like he understands Batman. That's a problem. He's too right.
There's also that great moment where he's talking to Catwoman. And he goes, like, don't you understand that your actions have consequences? And he has no idea what consequences his actions have.
Good call. No, he has no idea. And he doesn't get, and I know this is a real standard thing with Batman stories, but again, this kind of makes it fresh again. The question of, is Batman making things worse? Is he causing more problems than he's solving? And at the beginning, he's not self-aware about it yet. He says, well, crime's getting worse. I don't know if I'm really having an effect. So he's self-aware at least that far, but he doesn't realize that he might be part of what's making it worse.
Well, what I love too is going back to that beginning, that's so good, is that everyone on the street is incredibly afraid of Batman, and just seeing his symbol makes them afraid to go out. Nobody on top is afraid of Batman. Like
Yeah, good call.
the Penguin can have Batman in his office, and he's like actively making fun of him.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Like
So, like, he's not having a lasting effect on the...
he's hitting everybody at the bottom, and he's not like working his way up to the people that are actually running things.
And when he finally thinks he is, the whole thing is orchestrated by a bad guy who is inspired by him and thinks they're working together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, something else I wanted to talk about is the criticism that that some folks have that the that we get too big at the end with the climax in with the flood and having to do another like break the whole city down kind of plot. And I did feel that way a little bit first time around, just because it was kind of nice to have what felt like a somewhat smaller Batman story comparatively. And then this last time watching it, I had a whole different kind of attitude about it, where I went, I mean, it's already pretty big. We start with the mayor dies.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is that it's big but small. Like, it's the entire city's being flooded. We're in like a building. Like, the climax is Batman fighting like 20 people on rafters. Like, it's big in what's happening, but it's not way bigger in terms of what we're actually seeing.
And I have a hard time arguing with that, because the status quo at the end turns it in too close to my favorite Batman thing. So like, I'm gonna get to see Matt Reeves tackle something real close to No Man's Land. I can't argue with that. And
yeah, it's interesting. It goes to that place and like Zero Year, because Zero Year those parts. Yeah.
Yep. Because well, and Zero Year was clearly also looking at No Man's Land, but
certainly.
But like Rises goes to No Man's Land, and it's kind of a letdown for me, and I didn't know when or if we'd get it. And then Gotham did it, and I wanted to eat my own face.
Absolutely. So I mentioned this to you off camera, but I love that shot of Batman where he pulls off the rug, because when he grabs it, it's like a real close-up of his gloves, and his gloves bend in weird ways. And that is like the exact type of shot that we use CGI for now, to remove all the seams and like the kind of awkwardness that like actually wearing a costume has.
That's a good call.
And I think that's really cool, because you look at something like Spider-Man or something where they CGI every single line and fold, and it's those little bits, right?
I'm looking for Nigma here.
I missed it on the URL before he clicked onto this, but
was it on there, or are you saying you wanted to look for it and you didn't?
I
didn't
was
look.
trying to look, but I couldn't see. I could not see it.
Don't forget your cling wrap. Rifles are good.
Don't forget your Riddler cartridges.
Get your Riddler cartridges.
Put down your metal cartridges. Pick up your riddle cartridges.
Pick up your question cartridges.
Just shoots riddles at people.
That's so good. Another thing that is really cool on repeat viewings is looking at how kind of unrealistic, especially once she gets shot at the end, how totally unrealistic and naive Rial is.
Yeah, she thinks that she's coming in to actually make a change.
Yeah, and she doesn't realize that she's part of... that she's trying to do it through a system that is totally corrupt and broken, has no idea that Falcone is running everything. But also, she goes to Bruce Wayne and she says, you haven't been doing anything with all your money. And at first you think that the point of that is just kind of the fun irony of, well, actually he's doing all this stuff as Batman, but you don't know that. So it's the... So it's the kind of disguise drama, right? And then you comedy of whatever word I'm looking for,
and kind of like a mix of that argument that people make of like, well, Batman can just fix things with his money.
Well, that's
like,
what I was
there's
going to
that-
say is on a second viewing, the point of that whole thing is Thomas Wayne tried it. Look what happened.
Yeah. No, this movie is criticizing that idea without coming out and saying it.
Yeah,
so,
it's great.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's really optimistic about the potential for Batman as a symbol and his brand of vigilante justice, because it's not saying Batman in his purest form is necessarily causing more problems than he's solving and ruining things just by being there. Like, yeah, there are going to be consequences and he can be a catalyst for things, but what it's really saying is he can't be just raw vengeance.
No, this is the most hopeful and just optimistic it's more hopeful and optimistic than Superman's been on film in like 30 years. You know what I mean? Like,
but not sappy about it.
No, not at all.
I don't like the sheer number of times the word hope shows up in the Nolan movies.
Yeah.
I'm okay with fear. Hope is used a little too often.
I don't know if we've had this conversation, but I love when superhero movies remember that heroes don't just exist to punch bad people in the face.
Yeah.
And like help
absolutely.
people. And the fact that we end on just Batman helping people, like the villains are all gone now. Like he's just saving people. It's so good. And one of my favorite bits in that is that he holds his hand out to help them and they're all too afraid to come near him. And the only person that is like willing to make that first jump is the kid from the beginning. Like it's that Bruce Wayne parallel from the start, the mayor's son.
Yeah.
He got a little bit of a Robin tease, you know. He inspires kids.
Well, and of course you've always got people reading too much into every scene and wanting everything to be a reference to some comic thing or set up for something else happening later. So I'm sure you had fans that went, "Oh, maybe that kid's gonna be Robin," and I'm like,
they
"Stop
absolutely
it!
Did
Shut up!"
Because that kid's introduced in a ninja outfit, so they went, "Look, he's Robin."
Stop.
And I'm like, no, you can do that parallel without him being Robin. It's fine.
Yeah, we don't have to find out that his real name is Robin.
Oh, my real name is John Blake, but also Robin.
Okay, so obligatory Star Trek reference, because I haven't made one yet. I never caught this before, but the score. I'm sorry. Did you just like grunt?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I didn't hear what you said. I thought you were just like,
oh. No, I laughed to myself because I have another Star Trek point after you say this.
Oh, that's really funny. I thought you were just like, God, you and your Star Trek. No, there's a bit in the score there that is really reminiscent. I don't know if this is intentional, but Giacchino has done a Star Trek score. A couple, all of them? I'm actually not sure.
I'm not sure either. I know he does the Abrams movies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if he does all three of the Abrams movies.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But anyway, in that scene there with the really creepy strings, the chord progression is exactly the same as the score under the Spock death scene in Wrath of Khan.
Interesting.
It's like exactly the same. Where it
so
goes,
my
like it's the melody is precisely the same.
First of all, Batman when he like swings off the two thugs is awesome, but my Star Trek point is he straight up does like a silly Captain Kirk fight move in this scene where when he swings off the guys and then he like rolls into the people to trip them. Like that is a Captain Kirk fighting move.
Absolutely. Does the rolling help?
Yeah. Well, because he like trips them by rolling. Like it's so funny.
Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest?
No, I've not.
You gotta.
Yeah, no, I gotta see that. Yeah, this is where he does the rolling move where he tackles this guy.
That's great.
When I first saw that, I was like, that was just Captain Kirk. Because there's an episode, it might be the first one with the Khan. He rolls into him when he fights.
You know what? I think maybe part of the problem for some people in enjoying this movie is that the score is so. I keep talking about music, but the score and just the overall production of this is so intense and so in places unnerving and so earnest about it that it's easy to overlook places where the movie is actually having a good time. I really think that. I think it tricks you into thinking it's more serious than it is.
When people did this with Nolan, like I hear a lot of people talk about the Nolan movies as being like overly dramatic and having no fun, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like there are whole characters that are just there to tell jokes. So, and then I think this one gets it more so. But
oh, you know what else is great and twisted? So like Rial wants real change. Batman actually has created it in a really bad way. Like without him, none of this is happening. Mm-hmm. And then he is, maybe it's on the nose, but I never caught it before. While he's trying to stop the Riddler's goons here, he is crawling all over the word change. Well, that's intentional. Yeah. Oh, he's crab walking. Look at him crab walking away from Batman before he pulls out his shotgun. Or was it a rifle? Maybe
it was a shotgun.
Oh, okay. I was going to say maybe he's the same guy that was like, rifles are good.
No, because this is one of the moments where I go, how do you guys think this is the most realistic take on Batman? He just took a double barrel straight to the chest.
And he's fine.
Yeah.
I also love that these guys all have to make their Riddler masks look just like the Riddlers, so they have to wear what I'm going to assume are non-prescription glasses. Yeah.
I think they're like safety glasses, yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the idea. But I thought the idea was just the Riddler wears glasses.
Oh, no, it is for the Riddler.
He's got prescription glasses, so he's got to put them over his mask. Because he's wearing the same ones when he doesn't have his mask on.
No, I think those are like Edward's actual glasses. I'm saying for them, it might be like safety glasses that they're wearing.
I made this point before, but one thing I really appreciate about Batman and Catwoman's relationship, first of all, not for nothing, and I am too excited about this these days, I guess, but too many movies just completely avoid romances and get weird with that, and somehow it's more progressive for women to just never fall in love with men, and I think that's really weird and messed up and wrong. And I don't mean I need a love story in every one of my movies, but the idea that like I'm supposed to applaud everything for not having a male love interest for a female character is preposterous. Oh, she's a more strong character because she doesn't fall in love with anybody. That means she doesn't have feelings, maybe. Like, I don't know. It's weird. So I appreciate just having a good kind of old Hollywood-esque love story with this without, throwing anybody under the bus. But also, we try to avoid the damsel in distress cliche so much these days that sometimes we seem to be afraid to ever let a man rescue a woman, even though, well, I don't know, if she's in danger, you should probably do something about that. They go back and forth and save each other all over the movie, and I like that a lot.
No, it is good. I also just came up with an explanation for the glasses on Riddler.
Oh, okay.
They assumed that Batman wouldn't punch a guy with glasses.
So good. Okay, what's your take on the adrenaline thing? Everybody has an opinion about this.
I don't know. Like it's a thing that happens. I don't like it. It's one of those things that could be venom. It could just be adrenaline. I don't know.
Well, not just the whole venom thing, because yes,
but just the fact that he had to take it.
Well, some people feel like that's one of the things that makes it super realistic.
Yeah, and I don't have that because I just go. I mean, he just took a double barrel to the chest. Like the reason why he has to take the adrenaline is, I think, far enough away from reality that I go, it kind of evens it out. Cap is the guy from the funeral.
I did not pick up on that. And see, that's why I'm saying if you did bring back the kid with the half clown face at the end and he was just in there, I probably wouldn't even notice that it was him.
He could be on the ground and he has a rock and he throws it at one of the Riddler goons that are shooting at Batman.
Yeah, part of the problem is runtime. with a thing like this is you establish that guy so early and he was in one scene that it's easy for me not to notice him at the end. And I meant to read this comment earlier, but Connor had a comment where he said the reason that it was that the big revelation with Falcone was kind of a letdown for him was just it comes too late. The movie's so long. It's a runtime issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. There's a shot here when Batman gets the cable that is like the most out of a comic book shot I've seen in a Batman movie, where I'm not seeing an actor anymore. I'm just seeing Batman.
Yeah.
It's this like far off shot where he like takes the batarang off his chest.
Well, and
Like,
there were a couple of things
Batman.
like that in BVS where I couldn't help but appreciate I was finally seeing like Batman move like he does in the Arkham games or in a comic book. And now I get to see it in like a good
in
movie.
good material.
Yeah.
I think that's why I don't have it with BVS, is just because I don't like the material, and it's just kind of like it makes me laugh where I'm like, Snyder. Like that stupid shot when he's running from Darkseid and he like poses for a second with the lightning, and I'm like, yeah, like I get it.
See, this is a great example of practical and visual effects integrated so well that I don't always even know what's real and what isn't. I don't know if that cop car was there. It might have been. That was probably CG. I couldn't tell you. I don't know for sure.
Well, and this used the volume, the thing that they use on Mandalorian.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, so like when they're on the building and you have like the sky in the background, like that's all that volume technology.
But like, can you tell me like that cop car that flips over in the water?
I assume probably CGI, but I don't know.
But it looks good.
Yeah. No, I mean Matt Reeves knows how to handle CGI.
I'm saying they could have actually done that, or they could have not. It doesn't matter if they didn't because it looks good. Super John Kelling put in a $5 super chat and says, "Guys, the costume Riddler henchmen are going to riddle people with bullets. Riddle them."
Exactly.
You see, it's like a play on words because I'll leave. So, I believe it or not, there is there's a comic in early Nightfall or just before Nightfall with a little story called "Who Riddles the Riddler." And they made that gag there, where the Riddler gets on venom toxin and he's like real hyped up and he's all muscular, and he takes bullets and he gets riddled, and he riddles people with his big gun.
Oh God, only in the 90s. But yeah, it's one of my favorite shots in the movie.
It's wonderful.
When he's holding his hand out to the crowd and they're all too afraid to take his hand. And he's got his bat flare.
Dagan Spear says, "I think the issue with the realism is how it plays kind of fast and loose with it. Bruce needs a flying suit, but also can take a bridge to the face at falling speed and a shotgun."
Like I said, I don't look at the flight suit and think, oh, it's got to be realistic. I look at that and go, it's a prototype thing. But we'll see moving forward.
Yeah, and that's why I'm holding out judgment with some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, this viewing has gone by very quickly.
Yeah, so...
I don't feel like we've talked about anything yet.
This is one of those 3-hour movies where I go, it earned its runtime, I think. Like, this is not an end game where I'm sitting there, like, cutting scenes in my mind while watching it, where I'm like, this is bloated, like, cut this scene.
No,
a ton now.
It really earns its real time. It's one of those movies where you get sucked into a time vortex, where don't look at a clock and you couldn't tell me how long this movie was.
Yeah, exactly. No, and this is just such a beautiful ending. Batman, carrying these people out,
and again in daylight. I mean,
Yep.
it's sunrise.
Yep.
So it's not full blown daylight yet, but
yeah. No, but we're showing
or sunset, sunrise. No, he must have been
It's
up all
sunrise.
night. It's sunrise. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because the sun's rising in.
Hey, could we do
Gotham.
one of these in real time? Could we have Batman 24? I
Yeah.
would love that. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said the sun's rising on Gotham. Batman's becoming hopeful now.
Thank you for spelling that out.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. See, Batman, the people of Gotham want Batman to give them a hand, but Batman's saying no.
Did you hear what Batman just said?
What?
He said the city has scars, like me.
Like Zaz. Gotham has scars for everyone it kills.
I love the images of Batman just like helping out people, saving people, and what that means for his character arc, of course. And finally, a Batman movie where he does have to full on change.
We've never really gotten that.
But then I see him becoming the Batman who will refuse to. It's great.
Well, we've never really gotten either that change thing that you just said, or Batman really like saving a bunch of people like this in a movie.
Yeah, well, it's so more powerful in a movie where he thinks he cares about that, but he is conflicted about it, and it really is just too much of a vengeance thing. And then he realizes, oh, I've been going about this all wrong.
Yeah, no, and it's such a good writing 101 thing where at the beginning of the movie he takes out those thugs that were beating up that guy, and then he stands over the guy, and the guy's like begging Batman not to hurt him. And then this is where we get to by the end of the movie.
So I am really perplexed by the choice to even try to start formulating a version of the Joker in this. It just seems like it would have been really smart to completely wait like Nolan did and not try to develop your take yet.
See, I disagree just to the extent where I go, I think it was smart of Reeves to go, okay, look, here's the Joker. Like, don't ask me about where my Joker is. Here he is. He's right here. But I also think they needed that scene, that earlier scene that got cut, where Batman goes to talk to him, which is a better scene than this scene is.
It is a better scene. I still don't like their take yet. We don't know too much at the moment, but
yeah, and like I'm indifferent on their take. It's my main thing is
I watched Gotham. That's my problem. Is I wish I'd never done that because he looks and sounds just like that guy, and
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
I can't get into that yet.
I think he was just smart to just go, look, okay, don't ask me about it. Here he is. Here's the Joker. Because that was all anybody would be asking by the end of this movie is, when are you going to do the Joker, Matt Reeves? When are we going to see your Joker?
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't with that.
Absolutely.
I think he should have just left it out completely. And I'm saying that because I'm looking at it and like maybe I wouldn't if he showed me something that felt either classic or a just different take I was intrigued by. That so far seems ultra generic to me. And he's got a take on everybody else. And yeah, we've only got the one scene too if you look at the deleted scene, but like I'm not excited about it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
I don't really care either way.
I'm not jazzed by it. And I would much but here's my point. I'm saying this relative to other people talking about it. I would rather have to live in a world where people go, "Oh, Matt Reeves, what is your Joker going to look like?" than have to listen to opinionated people complain about what he looks like. You know, and that's where I'm at now. Is now I got to listen to everybody go, "Well, that movie was good, but God, that Joker." I'm like, I don't want to live in that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I ignore most of that, but I can see what you mean because that's your job.
I also think showing him to us is weird if we don't use him in the Arkham show they're apparently making.
I think they are though. I would be shocked.
I hope they do. That. And it would be cool to develop him there.
Yeah.
I also like having a Joker that, especially in separating out from the Nolan movies. And it's interesting, right? The places we didn't talk about this, but the places where it doesn't just parallel, but like straight up, almost like lifts lines from those and ideas from those because it's cribbing from everything. But I do like that Batman has already dealt with the Joker and he's already put him in Arkham, and they have history.
No, that's what I mean. Like that's the element of it that I like. Like I don't necessarily like that scene, but I like that this is a Batman that's done things already, and like his Joker already exists, and it's like here we are. Like here's the Joker.
But you could establish that without showing him to me, and you could use other
That's
examples, and you could do a second movie where he's got one or two scenes. Like, I also don't want the Joker to be the main villain for their second movie, and I don't think he's going to be. And so the problem with that is it's got everybody going, "Oh, cool, Joker's in your second movie," but if they develop him in that TV show, then you'll mitigate that, and that'll be all right.
And I don't even have that, because all I hear about is, oh, is it going to be Mr. Freeze? Is it going to be Hush? Like, I feel like most people watch this and went, yeah, like Joker might not even be like a main villain in any of these movies.
I think most people watch this and went, well, your Joker looks like he sucks, but I get teary-eyed at this, dude. Like,
Really?
I can't deal with it. Yeah, it gets me. It's score. And just the image of, like, we know they can't be together. They pull up beside each other on the motorcycles, and then they get to the fork in the road, and they drive away. And
it's that 16-bit cutscene.
Yeah, exactly. It's such simple old Hollywood storytelling. I get misty-eyed, dude. Like, I can't deal with that. I like it a lot.
I love Pattinson's acting when he's driving and he looks in the mirror one last time as she fades into the distance, and then he looks up like more determined than ever and drives off. Pattinson's got some really good
that's the
subtle
Batman
acting.
that will now refuse to change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to go that way. He had, I mean, the symbolism of that is obvious. It's not just the, like, unrequited romance. It's she's just on a darker path than me. I can't follow that.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's, like, fogged off and she, like, disappears into the fog.
That's where Bloodhaven is that way.
Bloodhaven's constantly fogged. Gotham's underwater. Bloodhaven's fogged.
There is no justice that way, Batman.
Yeah. What you don't realize is that Bloodhaven and Metropolis are just across the river.
And is it, like, always daylight at one and dark on the other side? Like,
exactly. And there's no flooding in Metropolis.
Personally, I'm just fine with Bloodhaven and Gotham just being separated by a bridge in a way I'm not with Gotham and Metropolis.
Yeah, because especially in comic books, like, we constantly play fast and loose with Nightwing going back and forth, where it's just kind of always in both, I guess.
Fidelio says, I honestly really think this Joker has a ton of potential, and hopefully I'm won over eventually. It's just with that one, I don't like the voice yet. Like, I don't know.
And I mean, I think the thing is that there's so many casting choices in this movie that are bizarre on paper, and then they win you over, and maybe that guy playing Joker will win us over, but
yeah,
who knows? We don't get enough with him for me to really have an opinion.
He looks and sounds like Jerome so far, and I don't need that. But I guess we'll see what it's like ultimately. John Kelling says, I wonder who's running Arkham. It'd be cool if it's Jeremiah. Surely they're gonna deal with the Martha Arkham of it all.
Yeah.
You know, the history of the two families, because usually we have, like, the 5 families in Gotham. I guess here we've just got the 2. Like, they act like the founding families are Wayne and Arkham.
Well, that's one thing that you could probably build on in sequels if you wanted to. But if it's the 2, then that's fine. But I do like that they took that from Earth 1, that Batman is both an Arkham and a Wayne. That was always a really cool idea in that book. Especially because then you have that thing where his mom was crazy, and maybe all the Arkhams are crazy, and Bruce Wayne's, like, running around beating people up as a bat.
I'm sorry, what? I was reading comments. I missed the last sentence you said.
Oh, I said, all the Arkhams are crazy, including his mom, and then Bruce Wayne's running around as a bat.
That's true. Well, and when you have the Martha Wayne who was in and out of mental institutions and had that horrible trauma, and by the way, we could certainly, make some parallels between her and Riddler, growing up. Isn't that interesting? If you didn't have the Joker, this is stupid because you'd have to say that she's still alive somewhere or whatever, but that's the background where I could actually buy Martha Wayne turning into the Joker, like in Flashpoint, because I never bought that with Flashpoint. They actually created the right backstory. I think we've had that before, and I forget in what. Where is Martha Wayne in Institutions? That's a thing somewhere.
Well, because they make her an Arkham in Earth 1, but I can't remember if there's talk about her being in Institutions, but there's like a lot of talk that everyone that's in Arkham is crazy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Dagan Spear Cap, you liked Jerome at the time in the review of the Season 3 Joker episode. Yeah, that one place, because the writing was pretty cool, and that actor did a good job there, but like it all goes downhill later, and I don't want it again. I don't know.
He also played like 8 Jokers. I don't have the Gotham thing with that guy. Like I think he looks different enough, but I could maybe.
That's because you haven't watched all the Gotham stuff I had to sit through with Jerome.
But I've seen a ton of Jerome stuff in that show.
Have you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've seen the first like 2 or 3 seasons.
All you ever reference is Asriel, and I just assume you haven't seen anything else.
No, that's because that's like the only good part of that show. Because it's so funny.
I feel like Hugo Strange is the next place to go unless he's in the Arkham show.
I was gonna say I could see him being the main villain of the Arkham show, where he's maybe like a Nurse Ratched type thing, where he like runs the asylum.
Oh, this theme and piano, so good.
I don't know. Dream villain choice, Cap. Who is in the Batman Part 2?
Man, because I'm having a hard time thinking of people that I don't think they'll just do in the Arkham show.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
whichever you think.
I mean, what is it for you?
I think what I want at this point is probably Mr. Freeze, because I feel like he could do a really cool Mr. Freeze, and I think no matter what, you have to do a more physically imposing villain for the second movie, because we had the first movie where you have Riddler, who's not that, and I think that's one of the big things you kind of have to do in the second one.
Well, I'm not gonna say Clock King.
I want Killer Croc because the city is flooded. And
Killer Croc King.
You could easily have Killer Croc in there. I don't need him to be the main villain.
That's a good point. Well, I was going to say that, like, I like Ventriloquist, but I don't need him to be the main villain.
I could see Ventriloquist being in the Penguin show.
Yeah, see, everybody's going to be in these other shows. I don't know who the next big menacing, villain is, and
like, well, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the main villain. I mean, this movie had like 4, so
sure, yeah. I think I'm sticking to Hugo Strange though.
Hugo Strange would be really cool. Yeah. I just don't want Hush or Court of Owls. I mean, if he does them and they're good, then that's cool.
That's cool, but yeah, I can't get immediately excited about that either.
But I also think we'll probably find out within the next, 6 months or so, because it's filming in November.
Oh, Robotters is right. That's the one I really want. Man-Bat.
Man-Bat would be really cool.
Langstrom, because that would be a really nice transition into the super science stuff. Mm-hmm. And I feel like bear with me for a second, because I just had this thought. I feel like you could maybe do some kind of cool, evil chemistry stuff, like genetic engineering with, Pamela Isley and Langstrom in the same movie.
That'd be interesting, yeah. I wonder if they would go to Man-Bat, because I could see that being one of the villains of Brave and the Bold.
That's true. Yeah, some of that bigger, more over the top stuff. Because we have to think about that now too. Is what's the strategy going to be with this universe versus the DCU? And will they ever cross-pollinate like that, or they're always going to be like, well, if we're doing this villain over here, we're going to wait a while to do it over here?
I think they'll be allowed to cross-pollinate, personally. But the reason why I said that is just because that's they do like the ninja man bats in the Batman and Son. So I could see them maybe doing like a man bat thing there. But I also think Ra's al Ghul will be the main villain of that movie. So
it'd be crazy if they tried a big screen Phantasm. I say big screen. It was big screen. A live action Phantasm.
Yeah. That would be weird.
It'd have to be different. I mean, I wouldn't want just to remake a Mask of the Phantasm, but that suit could look really cool in live action, whatever you decided to do with it. Mm-hmm. And also, I could see them maybe not doing that, but I could see them going, like, just for the sake of variety, let's have like a full-on female villain for our main villain of the next one.
Mm-hmm. It'll be Magpie.
Oh, don't do that. So credits are about over. The last main point I wanted to make. Oh, real quick, let me say this, because I keep talking about score. So you've got Goodbye. You've got the main 4-note Batman melody right at the end when we get the title on the screen, with the Catwoman theme superimposed on top of it, and just those together finally. It's wonderful because we just watched them drive separate directions, and then we throw those together, and it's just so good. My last viewing of this that I did in preparation for the commentary, I finally got over something that I had the first few times I watched this, I think, which is I really like this movie, and I didn't have any desire to keep watching it. It was like I've had that experience. Like, obviously I will have reason with the channel to go back and watch it, but I just couldn't get excited about like going back. I didn't want to rush back to the theater right away, and I'm finally in a place with it where I want to keep watching it, and I hadn't had that before. But like it's finally watchable to me in a way it wasn't before. I know that sounds weird. I mean rewatchable. I mean like I want to live with it in a way I didn't before, which is just so strange for a Batman movie. You know, that I had that. But I think I'm over that.
This is like one of the few movies I've walked out of annoyed because I couldn't immediately watch the next episode. I was like, one more. I'm gonna have to wait like 8 years. Matt Reeves.
Matt Reeves. You know what? I got these down and I forgot to even bring them out at any point during the commentary. I got my the Batman Funkos.
Oh, there he is
out here. Yeah, look how massive he is. I've got the smaller ones.
They colored like just regular human eyes on him.
Yeah, it's great. And then I've got the Batmobile.
Oh, weird.
From the rides. Yeah, look at the back of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I don't understand the ride. Now I'm just reviewing Funko Pops. I don't understand the rides now, because they used to make these where they just came with a figure that sits in it, and it's an accessory that you could put your pop figures in. But they don't do that anymore. The figure is part of it, and it just lives in it. It's like I don't know. It's glued down.
Now you can't put the thing in your Batmobile.
Yeah, the crap is that.
That sucks.
I need to be able to do that.
But I think at this point, and it's hard to tell, but it's kind of tied for me, that Batmobile and 89. But it's hard for me to like put anything over that, like the 89 Batmobile, because it's so just like, this is Batman's car.
It's definitive. Like, it's perfect.
It's so just like ingrained in my head, but at the same time, like I love this one, and I love its take. It's so good.
I'm having that with this whole movie, especially after these last couple of viewings. I feel like this might be, and it's stupid to say the word objective. We've got people in the audience right now that don't care for this movie, and we've talked out some complaints here and there. Not as much as we should have. My apologies, guys. Austin was excited. Okay, it's his fault. He was like, we got to gush for 3 hours. That's the job. That's not the job. But anyway, for me, I think that at this point, I would maybe call the Batman the best on-screen interpretation of this character we've had, but not my favorite. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's, again, the word objective is not fair, but I feel like it's almost, okay, objectively, this is correct. Like, this is right. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, that's fair. This is like by far my favorite. It's possibly my favorite superhero movie. It's really good. But every version of Batman before this to me is like, I really like this. It's not what I want. So it's, you know, the second that somebody gave me what I wanted, it's hard for me not to go, you did it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I feel like there are aspects of that I have with this where like it's so close but not quite there yet, and that's because it's mostly a proto Batman. Like this is one of the best examples of the character is not quite the character until the end, but it's not a letdown. You know what I mean? Like it handles it as well or better as like Bond does with Casino Royale or something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But even that's more obligatory about it. Where like the last 5 seconds he's got to walk across the frame. It's like da da da. This doesn't feel like that. Like
Yeah, like there's no moment where it's like, and now I am who I am.
I mean, maybe sort of right at the end with like that determined look and stuff, because I think we maybe have a little bit of a flavor of what he's like as a happier Batman, a relatively happier Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not in your face about it.
No, it's a look. Yeah, absolutely.
AMC says Begins is still my favorite. It's still mine too. I don't care what Austin says.
I mean, that's okay.
Because we all can tell Austin is pretending like he likes that movie, but he
it's my second favorite.
I'm just kidding.
One thing though I think is interesting.
I want to paint you as a Begins hater because I think it's really funny.
One of the things I had last time I watched it though, compared to this that I thought was really interesting, was I got to the end of the climax and there was this moment where I went, okay, so the fear toxin is spread throughout like almost all the city. And Batman and Gordon stop it before it hits Wayne Tower, which would spread it to like the entire city, but it still hits like a good portion. And then it's like the next scene is just them being like, we did it. Like, it's everything's saved and like everything's back to normal. And I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. There's no real fallout from it.
Well, hey, the Narrows is lost. Okay.
I was lost to begin with. It doesn't even exist anymore after that movie. It was just like a thing I thought was interesting because obviously here the villain plot, completely changes the city.
See,
And
I think the mistake there maybe was not showing us Aftermath the way this does, because there's dialogue about it.
Yeah. No,
and
absolutely.
Nolan thinks that's enough where it's expository, where like Batman says, we can bring Gotham back. Like they're saying it's worse than how we found it.
Yeah, it's kind of just that. Like they talk about it, but it's not like you really see it. I also think it's really funny.
Here, it's underwater, but let me say this real quick too. Reeves is one of the best directors with big action spectacle things at giving us coverage of like establishing scene. Like he's really good at it.
He's a better action director too.
He's the exact opposite of Snyder, that will get like whole practical sets built that he never shows you most of. This guy's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. One thing I thought was funny at the Begins that I completely forgotten about, and then I rewatched it and I was like, wait a minute. Was when they're like, oh, there's going to be an attack in the Narrows, and Commissioner Loeb is like, send all of the police to the Narrows, close the bridges off. And I was like, wait a minute. All the police are now stuck on the Narrows. How did Gordon not learn this?
I know. That's so funny. Yeah, we had that conversation the other day, and I hadn't really thought about it like that. You're so right.
Like, come on, Gordon. Idiot.
Hung Low says time restrictions on Begins, perhaps. No, I think it's actually a directing mistake and something that Nolan got a little bit better at later in his career. But he talks about in interviews that one of his biggest struggles as a director is just getting enough like reaction shots of things and stuff, and that could potentially extend to establishing shots and coverage.
Yeah, I don't think that's it makes Begins worse. It's just watching it, I was like, oh, it would have been cool to see kind of some of that aftermath afterwards.
You could
and that was
improve
a
on
thing
it.
that I really liked in this movie. So it's not like I'm like, oh, Begins. I just kind of go like, oh, it'd be nice to see that.
No, we can tell. You're just saying that because you know it's my favorite movie.
Yeah, my Batman's better than your Batman. My Batman could kick your Batman's ass. That's all I'm saying.
Robert Wilde, I did want to read this real quick. Where is it? He said that he never understood the My Batman argument that people have, because he said, I grew up with so many different variations, and I did too, but that doesn't mean that I don't have like a definitive version of the character. And I think a lot of people kind of have that you don't see, that you haven't seen in a particular media yet. I mean, these are entitled first world kinds of problems, but like the closest thing to my favorite iteration of Batman in comics is Batman the Animated Series. So like a lot of people, the Kevin Conroy version is probably my Batman, at least on screen. And we hadn't had a live action version, particularly because we didn't do detective stuff, that ever got even close to it. Like, we were far and away. Like, I love Begins. It's Ninja Batman. Like, we still didn't, the only thing he does,
James Bond.
The only thing he does in Dark Knight is fingerprints. Like, he's not a detective. They're not detective stories. And we finally kind of have that with this. So I get why people have that, even if they like other versions or grew up with a lot of different iterations. Like, I've always said, a lot of good Batman things count that are really, really different. Like, the 60 Show and the Batman cartoon, which I can't believe 3 hours we never brought that up again. But
the weirder thing now is that we have the Batman, and then we have Brave and the Bold. So the next reboot has to be Beware the Batman.
It does. And this, instead of the Batman Part 2, that second movie should have been called Beware the Batman, because
but then they couldn't have a third movie because there's no new. Oh, I guess it could be Cape Crusader, but that doesn't come out yet.
Oh.
Because you got to keep going.
That's true, but I'm saying, like, after that you could get away from the names of cartoon shows, but just because they both say the Batman, you can still call it Beware the Batman, because it keeps your title. But I don't know what the third one would be.
Well, I really wanted the second movie to just own it and say the Batman and Robin. But
they should do a prequel that's like Batman Year One called Vengeance.
Vengeance Year One.
That's just called Vengeance. He's not even calling himself Batman yet. He's just Vengeance.
And you know what the logo will be, Cap, in the trailer? It'll be a trailer of just like people, like just like criminals running around the street, and then it'll just say V, and it'll go, you guys know.
Yeah, everybody knows what that is.
Exactly. You guys all know Batman V.
Oh, the Batman Strikes. That's exactly what the third one should be called. That's right, because that was the
Batman Strikes Again.
Yeah, no. There was I don't know if you know this, but there was a comic adaptation of the Batman cartoon show called The Batman Strikes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
So you have the Batman, Beware the Batman, and then we bookended.
Yeah.
With the Batman Strikes. Yeah, that's good.
It is weird that we now will have a Batman movie with 2 in the title. Because we've never had that.
What do you mean?
Because it's the Batman Part 2.
Oh, you're right. We haven't
never
ever
had a
that.
Batman 2.
Yeah, no, that's right. Because you had Batman Returns and you had Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Like, we've never had that. And I think everyone assumed that the Batman would have a subtitle.
And then after BVS, you had the Snyder Cut.
And then the Justice is Gray.
Everybody, thanks so very much for watching and listening to us. I hope you had a good time. We certainly did. Austin, this is some of the most fun I've had making a commentary in a long time. Thanks for doing it with me.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we finally got to talk about this. I love this movie.
It was great. I feel like we could do another one of these, and we could have entirely different conversations and still fill out the 3 hours really easily. Like, we got to the end and I was like, boy, I know there's stuff I'm missing. I know there's stuff we should have been talking about that I didn't get to.
Yeah, even just how good this movie looks. Like, I don't know if you heard, but Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, was saying that this should have won the Oscar for cinematography because it was the best looking movie of the year, and it looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. Did it get nominated for even technical stuff?
Yes, but I don't think it won anything. But I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Well, look, it's an honor just to be nominated.
Because I know Avatar took like the visual effects, and Black Panther took the costuming. And I'm not sure after that. I don't think it won anything.
Yeah, I guess that's fair with Black Panther. Namor was great. I mean, he looks really good.
Yeah. This movie looks way better than that movie does.
That's fair. There's some really impressive costuming in this too. But anyway, we're gonna get going. Thanks once again, guys.
For Penguin.
I'm sorry, what?
So give them costuming just for Penguin.
Well, that's makeup.
Oh yeah.
And if it didn't get nominated for that, that's shocking.
I always just lump it together. I'm like, I think that's just one award, like costuming and makeup, but I could be wrong.
No, they're different things.
Well, and I know they're different things.
Are they not? No, sorry. I just mean I'm pretty sure they're different awards. Am I wrong?
You're probably correct. I think I just kind of lumped them together, which is unfair on my part.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for being here. I was Captain Logan, and that was Austin, the Day Ghost. And see you tomorrow night for another Captain Logan show, if you are so inclined to pop in. Bye, folks.
See ya.